Hello and welcome to this year's collection video. Every year, if I have a build series that is a long one, multiple videos, I usually condense them down into one video for the end of the year. And this is going to be the second to last video for 2024. It's kind of crazy to think that we're already there, but yes. And so yeah. If you haven't seen the videos, here is a black Strat. And you're gonna see me build it now. Now there's a couple of things in this video that never got to be part of the whole YouTube making videos, because they were just sort of small things that I did in between other things. And so I filmed them to throw in here. So if you're watching this, you're gonna also notice that there are parts that you didn't get to see before. I hope you're gonna enjoy this, and yeah, I want to thank you guys so much for watching all my videos throughout the year. It's been amazing to see the channel grow and to see all the nice comments and see that the videos are getting likes and that people are, subscribing and all of that. There is a lot of positivity on this YouTube channel, and I don't know what I did to deserve it, but I'm really thankful for it, and I'm really happy to see that there's so many of you still hanging around. It's weird to read the name of the people commenting and realizing that, hey, this person has been commenting for a year or 2 or 3 and you guys are coming back. So it's a strange feeling, but it's an awesome feeling, and I'm really happy about it. So I just want to thank you guys so much, and I hope you guys are having an awesome Christmas, no matter what it is you're actually celebrating or how much you're celebrating. I hope you're spending time together with people that you care for in one way or another, and that you're having fun or having a relaxed time. I hope you have some sort of fun project that you can spend some time building something, because I mean, after all, is there anything greater than building something? And yeah, so we're gonna start off with the videos on this guitar, and I'll show you a little bit of it, and I have some ideas for things to come next year. We'll see if it shows up again. Throughout the year I've been playing this guitar, and I just want to say that I really like this guitar. It's become, it's sort of become a main guitar, actually. And yeah, there, as you're gonna see watching the videos, not a lot of it is stock. We still need a new bridge and new tuners on it, which will probably come next year, hopefully. I haven't decided on anything, so if you have any good ideas for a left-handed Strat bridge that I can actually get, because sometimes I get, ideas from people and it's like, it doesn't exist as a left-handed version. So, but if you have any good ideas for a new bridge and for new tuners that exist for a left-handed Strat, you can share them with me below if you want to. I appreciate it. But yeah, we'll start the video now, and hopefully you guys like it. I'll see you at the end again. Take care now. Hello and welcome to a new video. In today's video, we're gonna take this guitar that I showed you in last week's video, and we're gonna take it apart, take a closer look at it, see what we need to do. Let's just start off by removing these old nasty strings and just taking this whole thing apart and just seeing what needs to be done. Sort of a overview video, you could call it, and then we'll jump in to working on it. And I've already decided that the first thing we're gonna do is work on the neck, because I've obviously plugged this guitar in and played it a little bit, or at least tried to play it, and I sort of already know what's wrong with it, but one thing that is for sure wrong with it is the neck shape. It needs to get a lot thinner, and so yeah, today we're just going to take it apart and take a closer look and see what we need to do, and sort of, you know, do some estimations or guesstimations, as some people who don't like the English language likes to say. And yeah, we'll take it apart, put everything in a box, and that. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. So let's just start off by removing this arm. I know some people don't like to use the trem on the Strat, but you know, that's why we have a trem. So let's cut these strings. And here we have it now. First off, let's take off the neck, because obviously we need to remove the neck. Let's remove these screws. There's the neck popping out. Something like that. I'll just see if we can get this screw out. It's really coming in at an angle. I don't like that. That's not fun to see. But we'll have to take a closer look at that when we check things out. But here's the neck. Like so. All of these holes might actually be a little bit crooked. But I'm gonna just put the neck to the side for now. So let's start by removing the screws here on the back to remove this cover. I might have said this in every Strat video, but I'm saying it in this one again. This is not gonna be put back on the guitar, because I'm not a scratch plate back cover or whatever it's called, dust cover. I'm not into it. I have an old guitar with this one remaining on it, but it's just because it's, you know, a really old guitar. It's not because I enjoy them. So there that go, and it's not gonna get back on it. And you can see here that we have the crappy tiny tremolo. So at some point we're most likely gonna do something about that. We have the crappy strings, no brand kind of thing that isn't worth talking about. And you can see all this white gunk, that's the buffing compound that they never cleaned out. So yeah, while I have this here, I'm just going to cut this like so. We can remove this. We can take out these springs, and we'll remove this claw as well. Just take everything apart and see what we have to do with it later. Something like that. You can see all that gunk needs to be cleaned out, because if you're not going to have the scratch plate, this looks kind of nasty. And I don't know, I don't like it. But here we have the front of the guitar. Let's see if we can get these out, because they're in a way a little bit. And here we have the front, and you can see the pickups are really high, and the reason why they were high was because the string height was so high. You can see flaking off here, right? It's probably cheap, nasty pickguard, but that's okay. Take a look at the screws and bridge. They're pretty neatly in there, so they fit really good. So that's at least nice. But you can see, maybe, I don't know if you can, they're really crammed back here, which means that maybe the bridge is off a little bit. If someone's tried to intonate this guitar, and so we might have to plug these holes, re-drill them, and move the bridge back, which is, you know, it's not very fun to have to do, but usually you don't have to move it back that much anyway, so it's not that big of a deal, and also it's not that hard to do. There are videos of people showing you how to fix intonation on these guitars, where they're like, you have to cut the screws down to size, and you have to switch out the springs or cut the springs down. But there is actually only one way to fix it. That is the actual correct way to do it. And I know people might not like me saying this, because, you know, it's big YouTubers will tell you otherwise. But, you know, they're being lazy, and they're not showing you how to do it correctly. The real thing you have to do is plug the holes and move the bridge back, and just, you know, re-drill the holes and do it the right way. There is no other way. Every other, you know, like bending screws or doing weird things, you know, all those things that you've seen other YouTubers or whatever you want to call them show you, it's just not correct. And I'm sorry to tell you, I realize that some of you might be fans of these channels that have said these things, and yeah, I'm not gonna tell you which ones they are because I don't want to, you know, make any drama, but I just don't feel like it's an honesty thing, and I don't think it's right. It could be that they don't know what they're talking about and they just don't know and they're just telling you what someone else has told them. But this bridge, from what I can see here, should maybe sit there, you know, and it's not that much movement. You might not even be able to tell, but that's just what it seems like to me. Here's the bridge. It's not that bad. It has some heft to it and it looks pretty nice and solid. So it's not the worst of these sorts of bridges. The holes here are drilled off center, which is a little bit off and weird, because I feel like, aren't these machine made? You always find weird things when you look at in guitars, but I don't know if you can see that, but like these holes here that are drilled in the center here, that one isn't drilled in the center, it's off by a mil. I don't know if you can, like, can you see that? We're gonna check the intonation and everything when we actually go to put the guitar together. So I'm not going to say that these holes are going to get plugged or not get plugged, because the whole guitar needs a setup. The string height was so high that everything might be off. So it's hard to say whether or not the bridge needs to be moved or not, but by the way it was set up by whoever had this before, it did seem like maybe something needed to be done. But it could just be because the neck is off in all directions. We'll just take this off and we'll just snip these wires for now. There's no real point in unsoldering them because we can always just strip them back and remove and get some new wire going. There we are. And now it's just the pickguard. We'll take a look at this electronics as well. See what we have to do and what we don't need to do. I think it's more of a, from when I played it, the way things sounded, it seems like it might be just some cleaning that needs to be done. It might be, you know, fairly easy to do, but we might clean up the wiring inside if it's a rat nest and just make everything look nice, because I really like it when the electronics are, you know, neat and everything looks the way they're supposed to. So we'll just we'll take a look. The less I have to do, the better, in a certain sense, but also like it's fun to go crazy and just do everything and making sure everything is perfect and the way you want it to be. It's never better than what you can do yourself, or at least that's the way I feel about it. So let's lift this up and let's just look in the body real quickly without looking at that. The same thing goes here. It just needs to be cleaned out. You can see how they burnt through on the edges, which is, you know, it's easy to do. And it's not something that you have to fault them for. I mean, it is a sign that this was hastily made and it's kind of sloppy. But it's also, if you're going to burn through the finish when you are buffing the guitar, these are the areas where you would do it. And it doesn't necessarily mean anything, I suppose. But yeah. So something like that. Here's the body. We're not going to do much to the body. We're just going to sand it and scuff it up and buff it, rebuff it, and maybe try to fill some of these dings. I'll put it to the side for now, and I'll talk more about it later. Now let's take a look at this electronics. Whoops. Yeah, very basic, easy electronics, as you can probably tell. And everything looks really neatly and well done here, so there isn't that much at fault. We might switch magnets out or something, because that could be fun. Yeah, and the switch is obviously just, you know, the basic sort of beginner guitar, you know, thing. Yeah, everything here is just, we've seen this before. But there isn't that much cleaning up we might need to do. We could shorten this wire a little bit, I think, and we could tighten these up a little bit so they lie a little bit more neatly. because they don't need to be. I'll take a closer look at this and we'll go into that video when we do that, and we'll just spray a little bit of cleaner into the pots and call it a day. I think. I don't think we need to overdo it that much. Then look at this edge of the pickguard. This looks so weird. Why does it look like that? Let's take a knife and just scrape this edge a little bit to just remove that flakiness. Why? This has to be something that whoever had the guitar before me did. I can't imagine this weird sloppy work actually be a part of anything. So we're gonna, yeah, we can take our multimeter and just make a ground check, just because it's a good thing to do, and we might as well do it in this video so we know. So basically, continuity mode means we put these together and we get a beep, and hopefully you could hear that. And if I put these on all the ground connections, I should be able to get a connection. So, something like that. Everything here seems to be working the way it's supposed to. That's actually really nice. And I'll eventually go through this when we go to the pickguard video, because we're not gonna deep dive into anything in this one. We're just taking everything apart. So that's that, and everything seems relatively nice. And here's the neck. Let's take this apart a little bit more. So let's start with removing these string trees, which we might put back on. I don't know. There they go. Oh, these are so loose I can take them off with my fingers. Damn. We're a little bit hard in the beginning, so I don't. Now these are off. I take back what I was about to say. They are very much. They're not on. They're not on. Okay, because I was a bit like, these are really bad and I'm gonna have to replace them. I might not even use them for the original video. I'll just replace them immediately. But I mean, they're basically not even tightened down at all. And yeah, that's basically just falling off like so. We'll put them in the box with everything else just to make sure we have everything in one place. We're gonna open these up and we're gonna put some grease or oil or something inside of them just to make them work as good as we can. And as I said in the other video, I'm thinking that maybe I'll start off by putting this back together and making it just all better, and then we'll look at maybe replacing all the parts for better quality parts later down the line. But first, let's try to make the guitar perfect and then see what we need to upgrade, because I feel like that's the right way to go. It will allow us to know exactly what it is we have to do. You can see the little holes and the logo. This logo is going to disappear, and it's not because I care for it. I don't care if someone sees this or if someone not sees it, but I want to reshape the headstock to give it a little bit more of a vintage guitar neck look, which I think you all know what I mean when I say vintage guitar. And it's just because it's very close to being one, but it's, I also feel like, putting a lacquer on this guitar and then sanding back the lacquer here is gonna be, it's gonna be good. We're just gonna remove the back of this neck's chunkiness and make it a smaller, thinner, faster neck, for all the shred gods out there. This one's for you. The first thing we need to do is we need to take some measurements so that we know sort of how chunky this neck actually is. And this neck is right here at the first fret. It is 22 mil thick, and somewhere around the 12th, actually just the 12th, we're at 23, a little bit over 23 mil. So, yeah, that's unacceptable. We have to remove a bunch of it. No, Actually not that fat, but it feels a lot fatter than I feel like it should feel. So, we have to do something about that. First thing we're going to do is pop this little nut out. I have a way of doing this that I feel is very good. You've seen this in other videos. What I do is I hold these little nail hammers and I just smack it with it. And that will break the glue bond. And it will help me get it out. And it only takes a couple of smacks and whacks from all sides, and then it will come out, as you can see. And yeah, there it is. That's all there is to it. Now, the way I'm going to remove most of this chunkiness with is with my router. There's a lot of ways you could do this with, for example, a rasp or with a sander or something to just, you know, remove. But I'm removing more than a mil. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this. And it's just two boards that are perfect. And they have a center line and they're just spaced out. I've shown this 100 times before. And all I need to do is basically put my neck in here. Like so. But, wait, no. Not like that. The other way around. God damn it. Like this, obviously. And then I could just put the router on top of here and it will ride along and remove. But before we do that, I have to check the neck like this and make sure it's perfectly straight, or at least as close to straight as I can get it. Now, I can see that this needs just a little bit of tweaking. So I'm going to do that real quickly, and then we're going to jump into the routing. Okay, so the neck is in and it's straight. Now, if you look down there, you can see where the hole for the truss rod is. And you have to basically make sure that whatever you do, you don't go deeper than that. And then you also need to have some meat on the back. So I'm going to remove a couple of mils at most from the back, because you obviously don't want the truss rod to poke through. And so you have to think about, okay, the hole, the bottom of the hole or the top of the hole, seen from this angle, is where the truss rod is lying. So above that, we'll have to have a couple of mils so that we don't go into the channel, because we obviously want some of the meat of the wood, or whatever you want to call it, to be left. I hope this makes sense. If it doesn't, check my other video on this, because I did reshape the back of Mikey. And so I talked more about it in that video, maybe. I don't know. I hope this makes sense. This is, you know, one of those times where going slow and easy could be the better way. But anyway, don't forget to have ear protection on. So let's do this. Woo! Okay, so as you can see here now, it looks kind of crazy. But now we just need to blend this back in here. And the same thing here, just blend this in and then reshape it and make a round over and just make it look perfect. So let's do that now. Okay, so you can see the way it looks. It's, you know, maybe someone would like to have a neck like this. I don't know. I'm not one of them, but I'm gonna start off by just taking a file and just trying to blend, because we obviously don't want to do anything to the top here where the neck sits in the pocket. So we have to blend this new area in, and you might have to go back and forth between this round over when we get to it and this reshaping. So yeah, just have a little bit of patience. And I took away like 3 mil, which is a lot, but I was fairly confident that that would be okay. Yeah, you don't need to remove that much. It might seem like you do, but you have to understand that the width of the neck and the fatness of the neck will affect the way it feels. So by just removing a little bit on the back of the neck and then reshaping everything to get back a feeling of it being
round, you can actually really change your neck and the way it feels. I like to use a wood carving knife and just, I hope you can see what I'm doing, and just finalize it a little bit. Everything is going to get sanded, and that's going to help with the reshaping. And it can be a little bit physically hard to hand carve a neck like this because it's maple and it's been dried for a long time. So yeah, but I feel like a knife, you can really get in there with a wood carving knife. I don't really have anything else to say. Something like that. I'm gonna go over to my Japanese rasp and just do a little bit of round over. And I just move in long strokes like this. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit so you can see that I'm slowly but surely getting down there. And you have to, because you want to keep the neck, have that round feeling. So it's just not about taking off this corner, but taking off the entire side. I don't know if that made any sense, but hopefully it did. And I'm aiming to get this to be similar to Mikey, actually, because I really like that neck shape that I made for that guitar. Long strokes going over the entire area like this. You can see how I start and move all the way down. And that's really gonna, like, I can already tell that this is gonna be nice. Anyone who wants to know, Mikey has a bit of a flatness on the back here, so we're gonna keep that, but we're gonna minimize it. We're almost there. I need to take off more on the sides and make it come in a little bit. But let's reshape this part right here a little bit. And just because, you know, people like to jump around in the videos, I'm obviously, which I might not do in this video, or I won't do in this video, I might as well say that immediately, but I'm obviously going to sand this. Small imperfections that you might see are going to disappear between this video and when I go to lacquer it. Like that, and then just carve it a little bit. Now I can feel the neck, and it's all ready. And mind that, you know, it's super rough, obviously, but it's already a better neck. Like, I would honestly prefer it this rough and this shape than to what it was before. This is a scraper, and yeah, if you don't know what a scraper is, you scrape with it. And I feel like you can actually really get in there, and you can work and reshape things really easily. So now that I've set a sort of base feel for the neck and roughed in the shape, I can make sure that that feeling goes throughout the entire neck, and I don't have any weird lumps or unevenness to it by just using the scraper. And it also helps with taking down some of the roughness. Like, this is smooth now, so basically wouldn't have to sand it. And that's because I've gone over it with the scraper. You have a burr on one side, so you feel it. It's smooth on this side, but here you can feel the burr. And I'm not talking about bill burr. Yeah, that's really nice. So yeah, I'm gonna stop the recording right here, and I'll be back real soon. I'm just gonna finalize this a little bit, just, you know, go over it and polish it up and smooth it out and just get it to be a little bit more perfect. As you're finalizing the shape and you're moving back and forth, I realize that some of you might be very cautious to the whole idea of, you know, reshaping a neck and working on it and trying to blend what you've done to the neck with what is originally there. But just trust your own instinct and feel things, and just, you know, move back and forth between moving things around and just feeling them and just carving them. And just, I promise you that if you can't feel that something is wrong, then no one else is going to feel it either. And when it comes to like guitar building, and especially neck shapes, like if you've played guitar for a couple of years, you're so sensitive to how a neck feels and how it's supposed to feel that I promise you know how to do this correctly. And yeah, just, you know, have the patience to do it in a controlled way, and you will be fine. You don't have to be super good at woodworking in order to reshape a neck. Like I realize that it takes a little bit of skill, and it should maybe not be the first thing you do when it comes to woodworking, but it's definitely more doable, and it's not as like big deal as maybe someone would want to make it seem like. I think that most people can reshape a guitar neck. And also, if you take off a little bit, if you go easy, you can always come back and take off more. So, you know, you could work that way as well, and just go, you know, I don't know how to do this, I'm gonna remove a mill and blend it in, and then I'm just gonna see what happens, and then I'll come back to it after I've done all the work and redo it and remove another mill. And yeah, sure, it will take a longer time to get everything finished and done, but in the end it's a safer route, and it's also maybe an easier way to learn. So I don't know, just putting it out there. Hopefully it makes sense to one or two of you, and if it doesn't make sense to anyone, then I don't know what to tell you. It makes sense to me. A lot of the guitars I made in the beginning, I built them, I played them, I had fun with them, and then I came back to them and I redid my work maybe a year or so later. You know, you don't have to ever be done or finished. You know, you can just be constantly improving on everything you make. So, if you want to. And for anyone who wonders, yes, I'm using a razor blade. But that's just because I kind of enjoy the tiny little blade feeling. You see how fast and easy I can do this neck? And yeah, it's maybe not the way a blade is supposed to be used. It will get dull. But these blades, you buy a pack of 20 and then you throw them away when you're done with them. And they last a lot longer than you might think. Okay, so the neck is really, really nice now. It's not completely perfect. You can see there, maybe you can see at least, there are a little bit of marks right there and right there. But those are going to disappear as soon as I sand the guitar. I'm not going to sand the guitar in this video because there's no point. I'm going to reshape the headstock in the next video. And after that, I'm going to sand the guitar, I mean the neck. And then we're going to clear coat it. I'm not 100% sure as of right now. But yes, we are gonna do that in the next video. But I wish there was a way for me to let you feel the neck before and let you feel it now. And you might not even be able to tell how much thinner it is. I don't know, but it feels so much thinner. And I just want to go through this with you real quickly, just because I feel like maybe I didn't explain it very well. But let's say this is your... And I know that's a very steep and over-exaggerated neck, maybe. But here's the fretboard on the bottom here. And that's the constant. You can't change that, because if you change the width of the fretboard, you run into a bunch of things. I mean, you can definitely do it. You can pull the frets and you can reshape it. And that's a video... Another topic, another video. That's... Anyway, but if I take off a little bit here, like so... And let's pretend that we're talking about mils now. And then I just reshape this, and I just like try to round this over again. You can see, hopefully, just how big of a change that does. It will do so much. I wish there was a way for me. Maybe when I have more subs, I can do, I don't know, some sort of get-together meet-up thing or something, and I can bring a bunch of things for you to play with. And then maybe you can feel this neck, but it just feels so much better. Like before, I could totally understand why this was a cheap, nasty, guitar that was worth very little. But now, feeling this neck, and remember, I haven't sanded it, and I haven't finished it or anything, so it's gonna get even better. But right now, it just feels like a Fender Custom Shop guitar. Which, if you have one, you might be annoyed with me for saying that. But I've played a lot of guitars in all different price points, or whatever you want to call it. And I can tell you, this guitar, when it's done, is gonna be amazing. And I fucked everything up. Okay, so today's video is going to be a little bit different than what I was hoping it was going to be. But sometimes everything goes out the window and you have to try and recover from it. And today's video was supposed to be a video on how to reshape the headstock of your guitar. Because if you've seen the other videos, I'm working on a black Stratocaster at the moment, and I was going to reshape the headstock, and I was going to show you how to use a template and a router and just reshape it. And I filmed everything up until the point where I was going to do the routing, and some of you probably realize exactly what it is I'm about to tell you happened. And the funny thing is, I told you in the video, which you don't get to see, but I said in the video that that you should be careful doing this because of how the router moves. It might grab the wood and tear it to shred and destroy what you're working on, and you have to be careful. And I don't know really why I wasn't being careful, but I wasn't. And I think it might be because the camera was in the way and I was filming things in an angle that made me not really able to see what I was doing. But anyway, what I did was that I destroyed the headstock of the guitar neck, and I just, I ripped it apart, and it all just broke and flew off in different directions. And there are videos online you can watch on how to use a router the correct way. I'm not going to go into it in this video. I'm not really in the mood, which you might. It might not be that hard to understand that that's the way it is, but I'm trying to recover from what happened, and instead I'm going to share with you how I fixed the headstock. I can't film that because obviously this is something that took an entire the rest of the day basically, and it was super annoying, and I was in a very bad mood, and so it would have been impossible to film. But I'm gonna tell you now that I've calmed down a little bit, and I'm just gonna explain what I did. So this is the headstock right now, and if you look at it from afar, like here or something, you might not be able to tell that there is anything wrong with it, but if you look real closely, you might be able to see that right here we have a crack that goes all the way up. And the way I fixed this was that I found all the parts, and I found all the parts, and I glued them slowly back together using super glue and wood glue, and I just trying to find all the pieces and matching them up as best as I could. And then I used the remaining parts as little extra pieces to fill in the gaps so shaving them down. And as long as you keep the grain going in the same direction, so that you don't get any weird crossing, you should be able to put it up together. And then I filled in the little cracks that was still left with super glue and sawdust. So for example, I don't know if you can see, but right on the edge right here, the very edge there, I had to fill it up with a little bit of super glue and dust. And yeah, that's how I did it. So now you know, if you look at this video and you wonder where the in-between part of changing the headstock looks, where that video is, whatever, it's this video. There are a bunch of different ways you can do it. You could do it with files and hand tools, and you could reshape the neck that way, or the headstock that way. And yeah, it might... The problem really is the fact that I don't have that much time to make the videos, and I'm always on a time crunch where it's like, I gotta get this done, I gotta get this, I have to finish this now, basically. And that's not really the way you're supposed to make things, but sometimes that's the only option, and that's when you need to find ways to do it so there are no risk involved. So yeah, anyway, I just wanted to start this video off on a very gloomy and boring way. Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna put on some lacquer now, and so at least you get something in this video that is maybe a little bit fun and creative and something. And yeah, I don't know. There's probably a lot more I could say about this right now, but I don't really feel like doing it. Just try to just stop everything when it gets pulverized and look for all the pieces, and then try to puzzle them back together, and let it take the time it takes. The more time you can put into just puzzling together, the better results you'll get. And then just super glue everything back together, all the smallest pieces, you know, the ones that are just like this big. You can't even see what I'm holding, but anyway, and just put everything back together. And then when you have big chunks, you can glue them back with wood glue, and then sand everything flat and smooth, and then put down some lacquer or something. I'm gonna put down lacquer because I think it's gonna hide everything a little bit more, and I think that will help me with this headstock. I also want the lacquered headstock look because that's what I like. So yeah, I'm just gonna mix some lacquer stain and use it as color, and we'll put it on. So I'll be back. Okay, so I have here some lacquer stain and a little bit of spirit, and I've mixed up a color, and it's this weird coffee grind color, but it looks pretty okay, at least for a first base layer. I might go back and change it a little bit because it's a little bit off color, I would say. But anyway, I'm just gonna put it on a layer like this. You can spray it if you have a sprayer, but I'm not really in the mood to bust it out and do it, because I would have to do it indoors, and I don't have the facility for handling the disaster of sprayed indoors. And so I'm just gonna do it this way for now. Just put it on. It evens itself out pretty well. It's not perfect, but I don't necessarily need it to be perfect. 98% or whatever is good enough for me at the moment, and I'm just gonna put it on like this. And yeah, I'll come back to it once, I don't know, I'll leave it to dry for maybe an hour, and then I'll come back and put on another layer, and I'll just do that a couple of times, and I'll be back once I've done that. Now obviously it all depends sort of on what you're going for and what you're doing. I'm gonna sand back the back of the neck and do some relic work on it. I know some people don't like the whole relic thing, but you can at least acknowledge the fast feel of a sanded back neck is amazing. So if you're here and you're like, he's relicking another neck, why? You know, I need my necks to be fantastic and feel amazing, and that's why I relic them. I'll come back once I'm done and I'm happy and it's time for like sanding or something, which will be another day because obviously I need to put on a couple of layers and let them dry completely. Okay, so I'm back and the neck has been lacquered about 5 times. I want to talk about the neck structure. You have the structure going from the strings over here, and if you destroy with a router anything but the cosmetic horn part, which is this part here, then the structure of the neck might be compromised and you can't just glue it back together and be done with it. You have to like route out channels and things and make it structural again, which is not an issue that I'm thankfully having to do, because that would mean that I would have to splice in pieces of wood and I would have to do a lot more work than I have to do now. And I would also have maybe something that wasn't as neatly. This is looking pretty good right now. I mean, you can obviously tell that there has been work done, but it's not as bad as I felt like it was when it happened. Just want to put that in there. So if you have a neck that you've destroyed, you don't necessarily have to throw it all away. Obviously, if the integrity of the neck is destroyed and you think it might not be able to hold the tension of the strings anymore, then you're running into problems, and maybe getting a new neck would just be the better option, because you wouldn't have to have that much work for something that might in the end not work anyway. Just wanted to put that in. I'm gonna go back to continue lacquering this neck, because the way I'm doing it right now with brushing it on means that I'm gonna have to put on a couple of more layers than what I maybe want to do, and then I'm gonna have to let it dry for a week, and hopefully it's gonna look really nice. I hope so, because otherwise it's, you know, a little bit of a bummer. Maybe have to replace the entire neck, I don't know, but hopefully not. Yeah, this guitar build-off series is not going as planned. Hopefully when we get to the body and the electronics, things are going to run a little bit smoothly and just be easygoing. But this was a setback, and really annoying setback that never mind. I'll be back real soon. Bye. Okay, so I am back, and first off, sorry if I seemed kind of down in the beginning of the video, which I was. I was devastated. I had big ideas for this guitar, and it's never fun to have to change things around, but it's okay. I'm fine. Don't worry. It's a week later. It's more, but never mind. The neck is dried, and it's a little bit uneven in color. You have some spaces that is darker than the other ones, but I decided that maybe that could be a benefit, because maybe it will distract from some of the mishaps. We're just gonna continue working on the neck. This is what it looks like. Here's the headstock and here's the neck. And I didn't lacquer in the middle because we're gonna sand it back. That's gonna be perfectly fine and all. It's gonna turn out great. When you have to do things like this, where you have to recover, you sometimes have to just take some sort of liberties with some of the things you have to do. So for example, one thing that I forgot to tell you is that I reshaped this. So I wanted a sharper shape here, but since I couldn't, and you can maybe see that the angle in here a little bit weirdly, but I just couldn't fix that really because I didn't have the pieces to do so. So it looks a little bit wonky right there. It has a little bit of a weird steepness right here. But the neck feels really nice, and your hand goes up here. So if you have to hold it or anything like that, we're just gonna sand it back. I have a little bit of wet and dry sandpaper, which you also will see in the next video, so I won't talk too much about it. But I'm just gonna sand it with this. This is 1200. So let's jump into it. You need a little bit of water, and that's it. Let's go. And we're not gonna go overboard. We're just gonna even it out and make it look nice. we have to do this side down here as well. Just take our paper and just go back and forth like this and just sand it. Okay, so the next step is sanding this area here. It's really nice and smooth, but we want to get it really nice. And first off, we're going to start off with 400 grit regular sandpaper. And we're going to try to sand off some of the lacquer as well and just get that natural, getting rid of some of the lacquer look. And just basically move back and forth like this and just take off. And it's going to take a while because we're going to 400 grit. But I don't necessarily need to start off at a lower rate. And we want to end somewhere around the middle here of the first thread, because when you play, your hand never really goes any further. So yeah, and I'm just going to let it do that naturally. I'm not going to sit here and like try to measure it out, but I might hold my hand here so that it bumps into it. And just go back and forth like this. Okay, so I've sanded it back, and I might sand it a little bit more. I don't know, but it's really smooth now. And so, because we could obviously just put on some oil finish here now and be done, but it's not gonna look right. So we are gonna put on this. And if you've seen any of my other relicking video, you already know what this is, and you don't need me to tell you. But if you're new here, you should subscribe. No, I'm kidding. I mean, you should do that too, obviously. I want you to, but I was joking. This is something that I call liquid rust. And it's just, you take vinegar and you take some rust from nails or whatever, and you put it together. And the reason why I do that is because if you use steel wool, which you can do if you want to, and I know someone is always commenting whenever I'm using this, that I could do that. And I know that I can do that, because this is basically that. But the thing is, then you have to wait for it to rust, and I don't really have time to sit around and wait. It's like waiting for paint to dry or something, you know, I have stuff to do. So we just smear it on, and it will have already started rusting by itself, because it has already been rusting in this. And so I don't have to wait for it. I have it already kept. In the amount of time that we talked, I don't know if it shows up on the camera, but it's already starting to get grey. You can see it. It goes fairly quickly. I'm gonna just relic this a little bit. Just get a little bit of dings in here and a couple of dings up here on the headstock. I'm gonna do that off camera because it's not really relevant, but I'm doing it because I think that will help the neck distract from some of the mistakes on here. So yeah, I'll be back real soon. I'm just gonna ding this a little bit. Okay, so here is the guitar neck. And I don't know if you can see it, but there is a little bit of... Am I showing you the right side? No. Sorry. There's a little bit of scuffed up and dings, and the neck, the back of the neck here is all grey. It has a little bit of redness to it, which I don't really understand why that happened, because it's never happened before, which is a little bit weird, actually. I wonder. Anyway, here I have some shellac. I like to use shellac. That's a good thing. It's good. I don't know what I'm saying. Anyway, I'm gonna just take a little bit of shellac on a rag like this, and you should have gloves on because this is kind of hard to get off your hands. Not so hard to get on. And I'm just gonna put down a layer like this over here and just seal up the wood a little bit. I'll leave it to dry for 5 minutes, and then I'll go on again, and 5 minutes, go on again, 5 minutes, go on again, and so on. Until I've done this for maybe 10 layers or something. 7 layers, somewhere around there. Okay, so now that it's been left to dry for a while, and I put a couple of layers on it, and it looks pretty nice. We're gonna do something that I always do, that I like to do, that I think is great. We take a piece of sandpaper. This is still 1200. I usually don't feel a need to go much further than that. Then we put a little bit of shellac on it, and we actually sand the guitar neck with the shellac on. And we just have to even it out. And if you just keep some of the shellac on the guitar neck as you sand it, you get a nice vacuum-like contact, and that's all we need. And I'm gonna do this a couple of times, not many, 3 or 4. But I'll put down a final coat, super thin, just to make it nice and glossy on the orange parts, the headstock and the neck heel. And in the middle here, I'll just go on with the sanding, and it will be a little bit matter here, but once it's been left to dry overnight, this will be a really nice and fast neck. It will feel amazing. It already feels amazing. So we take our rag and we just put on a little bit of shellac, and we just put on a thin coat. We just smear it around, try to make it look nice and glossy again. And it'll give that old hand-rubbed feel to it that just is so nice to see and just makes everything so much nicer. And I'm just gonna put it down the entire neck, and then we're gonna leave it to dry overnight. And when we come back to it tomorrow, I promise you it's gonna be beautiful. I'm very happy with this finish. I wish the neck was that I didn't have to do the relicking and that the whole thing had come out the way I wanted, but you gotta just take what you can get. And today, what I can get is this nice relict neck that still has beauty in it. I don't know if that looks as beautifully honey brown golden on the camera as it does in real life, but it does look really nice for me. So that's it for now. See you tomorrow when this has been left to dry. So, here is the neck right now, and it's all good. It looks really nice for what it is. You can see that mark right down here. You can see that on both sides. But other than that, it's not super obvious that it's been broken, unless you're really close, which I can see my eyes through the... It's a little bit easier on the back. I think you can see the stripe down here. But you know, sometimes things just don't go the way you're thinking that they will go, or that you're planning for them to go. And that's when you have to recover from it and just try to, you know, do something to fix it to the best of your ability. And hopefully it will turn out, you know, maybe not exactly as you wanted, but still pretty good. I wasn't going to relic the neck, but I had to do that. Or, I mean, I obviously didn't have to, but I feel like if you look at the back here and you see the scuff marks right here, and then you see that little mark right there, it goes together pretty well. And we have a little bit of like scratches in the finish here and things like that. It's a little bit weird, and you guys are most likely gonna think it's weird because in the next video we're taking care of the body, and it's I made this while this was drying, so that's, you know, why I know that. But in the next video is gonna be the body, and we're gonna work really hard on getting rid of all the dings and scratches and make that one look not relict. So it's gonna be a very different video than this one, but that body, I mean, it's probably gonna end up relict too, which I'll talk more about in the next video. This video is already too long, and the next one is really long. So I'm really sorry about that. I'm gonna try to make it shorter, but yeah, we'll see if I manage to do that. I don't think so. But anyway, here's the neck, and here's the back, and here's the heel and everything. We still have to take care of the fretboard and things like that, but we'll leave that for now, and we'll be back with that for another video. I just want to say, because I think that when I did the video where I carved this, that I measured the neck at the first thread and at the 12th. I think I did. I might not have done that. I don't remember. So I was thinking that I'll measure it again, and we'll just see what sort of difference the neck has now that completely done. So if I measure around first thread again, we are now at 19, which I think is 3 mils from the first video. I think I was at 22 or something, and at the 12th thread we are down to 20, which is a nice little taper. But it's not just a matter, of course, about the thickness, it's also a question of the shape of it. And so yeah, I just wanted to put that in there because I don't think I did that remeasuring, but I might have done it. But I also felt like you should measure once the neck is done, because the neck was done and finished when I did it the first time, and now it's been sanded and lacquered and relict and all of that. And I just want to say, I mean, you obviously you can't tell because this is a video, but this neck is so smooth and it's so comfortable and it fits perfectly in my hand, and it's just amazing. Just wanted to brag a little bit, I suppose. No, but seriously, I just wanted to, like, we're moving in the right direction. Things are getting better. This guitar is, you know, being elevated from wherever it was to awesomeness. So even if I have a little bit of mistakes here and there and things are not going completely the way I want to, I'm still making this into a better guitar, and the things I'm doing are still making this into something that is better. And so if you're watching all these videos going, I don't know, should I follow his steps? Then I think you still can. Like feeling this neck makes me believe that I'm gonna have an amazing guitar when all is said and done. What we're gonna do is we're gonna fill some cracks and fill in some dings, and we have a place where we have to rebuild the finish completely because it's fallen off. We are also gonna plug up these 6 holes right here, and then when we go to install the bridge we are gonna re-drill them because I've done some measurements and I've checked some things, and if I move the bridge back about 2 mil, I will have more space to move the saddles when we go to intonate the guitar. And so I just feel like it's worth doing. It also lets me show you how to do that whole thing correctly, which you might know from another video where I said that, you know, there's a lot of information out there, people who are sharing things that are not completely true, and they're saying that you can just, you know, cut down the springs on your trem, or you can file down the screws or something to make things work so that you have more space to push them back. But that's not the right way to do things. That's not correct at all. Obviously, if you can't move the whole bridge back and re-drill because you've moved it as back as possible, because we do have this cavity here and you don't feel like routing out it in the back more, then obviously some of those things might be something you have to do as well, but it shouldn't be the first thing you go to, and it shouldn't be really seen as a solution because you're making the guitar worse than it actually is or should be. We're going to do things the right way, and I'm going to show you how to do it. So let's jump in to taking care of this guitar. It looks pretty nice from afar, but if you look real close, maybe you can see that there are some dings and scratches, like right there. And in this corner right here, it's been completely smashed. What I've done is I've put down a little bit of black paint and I've filled it in with super glue. And I did that before because I had to do it as quickly as I could, because I didn't want this to peel off and get bigger and bigger. So I had to just stop the whole peeling process. But all I did was I put down a little bit of super glue, filled in the wood with super glue so that when I go to put on more glue now and build this area up again, we don't have any issues with things going into the wood because I've already filled the pores. And also to make sure that things don't peel off. If you have lacquer that is peeling off, you have to stop that process. And when it comes to a poly finish like this guitar, you can just glue the pieces back down with super glue so that they are attached, and then you can fill in all the little dings and cracks and things like that. But anyway, let's jump into it now, and yeah, we'll take a closer look at things. Here we have our little holes for our bridge, and first I'm just going to put down a little bit of wood glue. I'm just going to take a matchstick and put it in and break it off, put it in, move it around, break it off, something like that. And the wood glue is just to help glue them in place. We can obviously fill these up with anything, epoxy or whatever, it doesn't really matter. We are not going to use these holes. We're going to just try to make them disappear. We'll leave that to dry for a bit and we'll move on to over here. First off, I had to press everything down with masking tape so that everything would get attached correctly. So I have to just scrape away some of the masking tape. I wanted, obviously, to glue everything down, but I also wanted to glue everything down in its right place and as close as possible, because it looks a little bit worse than it is. I mean, it is still pretty bad, but I'm gonna take and paint this. I have a little bit of black acrylic paint right here, and I'm just gonna dabbing it on like that, working it in every crevice like so, and then I'm just gonna take and wipe most of it off, because now it's filled all the little dings and mishaps, and just try to clean up the area to the best of ability, something like that. And now here I have some 2-comb epoxy. So basically it's 2 combinations, and we're just going to press out a little bit because we won't need that much. And you have 2 tubes, an A and a B. You try to press out equal part, something like that. It won't dry until you mix it together, basically. We're going to mix this together and we're going to try to not introduce any bubbles to it, but it's kind of hard, so try to not mix it and steer it around. That was very clumsily said, but yeah, try to just not introduce bubbles. And I have already messed it up and introduced bubbles because I can see them now. We're fixing it, and then just put it down here into the finish, cover it all up, and we'll try to smear it around and fill up the gaps. This you can probably maybe see, it goes all the way over here, crack. So we're just gonna put this on here, and after it's dried, which is 5 minutes, we'll be back and take a look at that. Here we have a tiny little ding, and here we have a tiny little ding. So let's work on those two real quickly, but we're gonna have to go through the entire body. So here we have super glue. You just find the little imperfections that you want to work on, like right here, and we just press out one dab like that, and that's more than enough. It's probably even too much. Same thing here, just a dab, and I'm just gonna quickly go through here, feel the area, put a dab here, hope that that goes in there, and we'll just leave that for now, and I'll be back real soon. Here, which it's super hard to film and it's super hard to see, but right there we have a little bit of a piece of super glue, and we can just level it out with a razor blade. Just scrape, scrape, scrape. And you just do that until you can't feel it anymore. And it should really go quickly and not be a big thing at all. Quickly go over it with the razor blade. Just soft little pads. You don't have to press or be forceful or anything. Just tiny little soft movements. Flip this over and we can take a look here. I don't think we have that many dings in the top, but we have one big here. And so we have to do the same thing we just did. The drop in, we smudge it around a little bit like so, and then we just wait for that to dry. It might be hard to see, I hope you can see, but there's like white lines in the finish right here. And that's, you know, it's been scuffed up against something and it's been damaged. Usually you'll notice these things with polyfinish, that if you get scratches or dings, you get a little bit of whiteness. And so what we can do is just level out tiny little scrapes very softly around these areas and just smooth that out. And then if you have that, it might look worse now, but if you sand this with wet and dry sandpaper and you go up to maybe 1200 or 2000, that's gonna disappear. We're gonna fill everything in that we need to fill in, and then we're gonna talk about the sanding parts. And right here, now that I've leveled this, I can feel that some of the dings and scratches, they are not disappearing because they are too deep into the finish. And so we're gonna have to put down a little bit of super glue and just fill up those areas. Now sometimes, all depending on what sort of mood I'm in, I will fill these holes up and I'll put some color in and I'll basically make them disappear like they never existed. But sometimes I'm like, nah, I want the guitar to have the holes even though I'm never gonna use them. And it's just because I feel it looks right to have the holes. And I'm thinking that this is one of those guitars, so I'm gonna just put down, this is lacquer stain, and I'm just gonna fill these holes up with it. And we'll wipe away the excesses. And this will just make the wood on the inside black as well. And the same thing goes with this right here. They just drill a hole straight through and they don't really care if it looks good or not. And the same thing goes for this thing. This is also something that I don't know if anyone else would care to do it, but I do. I usually do it. Usually you will have a burr on this edge right here because how they route everything out. And on inexpensive guitars, they never sharpen their bits. So I'm just gonna hit it like this. I know this is one of those things that you could say doesn't matter, but I just hate seeing it, you know? And just cleaning it up when you're not gonna have the plate on. To me, it means so much. Like, I don't know if you can see it, but now I'm back and I've just filled it with a little bit of paint and super glue, and I've gone over the edges so they're smooth and nice. But these holes, like they're there and you can probably see them, but they're also like not taking up focus. Okay, so I've started to level out this area that we just fixed up, and as you can probably tell right here, I have some of the clear coat without the lacquer, and it just looks kind of like a disaster. So we're gonna have to refill this area. So we have to sand it and scuff it up. And I'm using 400 grit sandpaper. I've cut a little strip like this, and I'm just sanding back the finish. Just gonna try to get this to be as smooth as possible. 400 grit will take off a lot, but it will not make huge marks in the finish that we can't fix. But you can see how I'm burning through on multiple places now, and that's just, you know, sadly a part of it. Now we have sort of evened it out a little bit, and I'll just go over it with a scraper and get rid of some of the unevenness, leveling out this entire area. If we level out this entire area, we've basically created like an entire new surface here. Now we have an edge again that is at least somewhat the same as before. So something like that. Don't let the matteness of the area fool you. The edge has been reconstructed. Okay, so I was hoping not to have to do this, but that's the way it is sometimes. Here we have a little bit of black spray paint, and we're just going to spray this area here. There you have it. And now, obviously, we'll leave it to dry now and all of that, but hopefully you can see that it's basically gone. And everything looks the way it's supposed to. So let's start off by smearing in just a little bit of black, and then we just remove the excess. We don't need paint everywhere, so something like that. And then we just take our super glue and we flood these marks and just let the super glue sink in and fill everything up. And if you get bubbles, just pop them because we don't want them. And then I'm just going to leave this to sink in. It goes fairly quickly, like this one has already sunken in. And it might sink in a lot, but just give it a couple of goes. I'm just going to come back and refill them and do that a couple of times. Okay, so I'm back now, and you can almost not see the holes at all. Obviously this needs to be leveled and things like that, but we're not really there yet. But the holes are basically gone. You might think that I'm suggesting that you have to get this perfect and, you know, seamless and just erase the trace of any holes ever existing, and that's not what I'm trying to get across. I just kind of want it as neatly as I possibly can get it, so that when I do go to drilling new holes, it looks pretty nice and it looks pretty good. And the thing is, everything here is gonna get sanded and evened out and buffed and everything. But even if you can still see them a little bit, it won't matter, because the bridge, and I'm not going to put it in completely, but if I hold it here, maybe you can understand that how, like, I'm just moving it back a little bit, and the pickguard and everything is kind of go on and cover all those things up anyway, so you really don't need to spend like hours trying to get this to be perfect. Do your best job, but keep it, you know, reasonable, and do it to the best of your ability, obviously. Always do your best, but also be reasonable, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so if we look at the body right now, we have some flat areas where it's dull, and that's because we've scraped it with a razor blade. And we have this area here, which looks a little bit weird, maybe. I ran into an issue with this body that if you have a Squire or a Harley Benton or something, you're not going to run into that problem, at least not the same way. But this guitar actually has a really thin coating. The black paint is really thin, and then the clear coat over it is also really thin. I've already burned through the finish multiple times and had to fix my own little burn throughs. Yeah, we're gonna have problems, is what I'm trying to say. But anyway, what you need is sandpaper. I'm starting off with 12. You could most likely start off with like 800 if you have a thicker clear coating. You need water as well, because we're using wet and dry sandpaper, and that uses water as a sort of vacuum thing to press the paper into place, so you will get a nicer contact, which is something you don't hear people explain why they're using different kinds of paper. But this is not the same as regular sandpaper. This is wet and dry. So if you're going to do something with this where you're working on lacquer, you should use wet and dry sandpaper. And they usually come in higher grids. Usually they start off at somewhere around 400 and work their way up to like 8,000. We're not going to go to 8,000 on this guitar. If you have a guitar that you really, really love and that is expensive, like really expensive, you might want to do something like that and go to like super, super high grid, super fancy sandpaper. But anyway, you're also going to need a towel to wipe everything off. I'm just going to start doing this now and just put my towel down here in my lap and try to work and be effective and get this over with fairly quickly. There is benefit to sanding the entire body the way I'm going to do now, and that is everything will be even. Everything will be at the same level. It can be challenging to get the gloss back to super high gloss on a spot leveling work that you've done if you have something that has a really nice high gloss and you've fixed it. And so for me, it's going to benefit me to sand everything. But I understand some of you might not want to do that because that's more work. And if you have a really expensive, nice guitar, you might not want to have to sand and buff the entire body. That's overkill, but it can be a challenge. And you'll have to put more elbow grease and use power tools maybe even to buff up the area afterwards. And we're going to go into buffing after this, but I'm just putting that out there, that if you're doing similar work that I'm doing here, where you're taking something that is sort of inexpensive and you're gonna rebuff the areas, you might want to consider maybe rebuffing the entire body, just because then you'll have to work from where you are. If this body doesn't get as glossy as it is now after the sanding, it doesn't really matter, because I can decide whatever sort of level of gloss I want, because it's going to be all over the body and it's going to be even and the same. But if I only spot level places, then I have to work that up to the same gloss as the areas around, because otherwise you'll basically just have different levels of this matteness, which doesn't look super nice. So I just have the guitar body here and I have my paper here, and I'm just going to put some lukewarm water on the body and my sandpaper. I'm just going to start working it. I have some scratches here that I really want to get out. And so I'm going to have to go through the entire body, and paper is getting like sucked onto the body, which is perfect, because that's the kind of thing you want for the ultimate sanding. But it is a little bit hard because you can basically lose the grip of the sand. And now those seems to be gone. So I'm just going to go through this. I'm going to speed up the video now, but just realize, you know, that this is the sort of pace I'm going in. And I'm going to apply some water to the area, and I'm going to sand. Okay, so here's the guitar body right now, and hopefully you can see that it's at least almost matte everywhere. You can see here how easily I burned through the finish. The same thing here, I burned through the finish here a little bit again. And I had this area here where I completely like remade the entire thing, and it looks pretty good, like, but you can also see maybe there's a little bit of marks here and up here where I've sanded through it. And I was gonna pull out all the stops and just buff this up and make it super glossy, but this is what I think will happen. And if you want to, we can do some sort of follow-up video to see if I'm right, but this is what I think is gonna happen. I'm gonna play this guitar for 2 or 3 months, and because I'm kind of reckless, so I'm thinking 2 months after I've made this guitar, or 3 months after, I'm pretty sure that I'm gonna wear through the finish like immediately. I'm gonna hand buff it, is what I'm trying to say. And if you guys want to, I can make a follow-up video like at some point, and we tell you like, oh, I've played the guitar for this and this amount. I'll just show you how much wear it's gotten. Because one thing that a lot of people who don't like relic guitars like to talk about is like earning it and playing the guitar so much that it gets worn. But they never talk about like what kind of finish and what kind of conditions are the guitar in. You know, like for example, some people seem to glorify the whole playing in smoky bars, but it's like there are no smoky bars. And also, like, risking your health doesn't make you a better guitarist. Like, all those things are so stupid. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting sidetracked again a little bit. My point is, if you have a really, really, really thin clear coat on a really, really thin paint job, you're going to wear through that quicker than if you have a mil thick clear coat. My point is, it's not worth it, basically. Like, standing there with a machine and trying to get this up to a high gloss and spending 40 minutes buffing this like crazy, going through all the different steps, is not worth it. So I'm going to hand buff this now. I'm going to show you how horrible it is to hand buff, because you need a rag. You can use an old t-shirt, or you can use a old towel or something, or you can buy special cloth for polishing your car, which is what I have here. It might look like regular tissue paper, but it has finer texture to it, and it doesn't really fray the same way that paper does. It might be hard to tell, but you feel it when you feel it. And you just find that in your like automotive car shop thing, yeah, or in your grocery store if they have a section for like nifty things you need to have for your car or something like that. I'm gonna film just buffing the front, I think, because I don't think we need to do more. And then we just put on, and I need to get some more of this because it's farting it out, and we just smear it around and just try to get it across this entire area. And you probably should use something else than your fingers because you get dirty. It would be fun if any one of you want to, or some of you would like to, write a comment guessing a date, like 2 months or 3 months or 5 months, and then like, it's gonna be this much relic or this much relic. And I promise I won't go in and fake relic it, or whatever you want to call it. You leave this on for a bit, which we obviously have done now because I've been rambling. Then you take your paper or your tissues or your cloth, whatever you're going to use. An old t-shirt will work great for this. So if you have an old t-shirt that you're like, no, I want to use it for something useful. And I usually like to stand up and do this so I can lean on it and use all my body weight on it, because you need to like go ham, and you need to just press as hard as you can and just buff it up like this, and press as hard as you can and go as fast as you can so that you really get in there and really. And if you have just a spot, then it's a little bit harder to maybe, but it's also easier because you won't have to do this for very long. And then it's done when it feels clogged, and you take the next one and you just yeah, you feel it immediately. You get tired after 12 seconds. You just want to press it down, and it might be hard both for me to explain but also for you to understand, but I'm putting everything I basically have into this. I'm just pressing down like like to the point where it's hurting, you know, so just and you just need to first get as much of it done, off, just polish it off, and then the real work begins when you're like, like you can see there, I fixed that. That's where I fixed it, so it's actually thicker there with finish, and we're already through it. So like this guitar, which I don't even remember the name of, it was something like Rocktail or something. You can see it in the beginning of the first video, I think. That one was just I don't have to go overboard right here because that's just try to create some friction and heat. So press down as hard as you can, and really, and if you feel like it's getting a little milky in the finish, you just need to go faster and harder. So if you have like a really buff friend who's really strong and who wouldn't mind helping you, maybe you can put him to work, like something like that. Whew. I'm gonna have to go back and do this a little bit more, but hopefully you can see that it's somewhat glossy. I don't know if you can see any real reflections, but yeah, there it is. And here's the back. And yeah. Whew, I'm gonna take a break. Okay, so here's the body now. And it might be hard to see. It's also a little bit dusty. I need to clean. But it has a little bit of gloss to it. Not over dramatic. It's not as glossy as it was before. But it's okay. I had to compromise a little bit. Because, yeah, I am thinking that maybe when I go to like upgrade the guitar or something like that, I don't know, I'll probably just repaint the guitar. To be honest, it has a very, very thin finish. I'm like, even here where it's supposed to be, you can still see those. But all the techniques and everything that I went through in this video are still valid. I understand if some of you might be like, nah, if it doesn't work for you, why would it work for me? But I didn't think this guitar had such a thin finish. It didn't look to be like, it's so thin, basically, is what I'm trying to say. I thought it was less dramatic when I started, but then when I scraped, I just realized like, oh my god, I'm down to bare wood really quickly. Now, I'm not really sure what kind of wood this is. Most likely it's basswood or something like that. But maybe that means that this is a great mod guitar for all you weird people who care about how thick your finish is. I shouldn't say that you're weird, but you are, and you know it. What we need to do is we need to round over the frets and just get this down a little bit because we have a little bit of fret sprout. And then we need to polish and make these frets look nice because they're not very nice looking. And then we need to oil the fretboard. These are standard things that comes with taking care of your guitar and that comes with doing a setup. First thing we need to do is mask off the fretboard, and it's super easy. You just put masking tape all over the wood part and leave the frets exposed. So I'm gonna do that real quickly and then I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so here is the fretboard right now. You can see it. And here I have a tiny fine-toothed little file, and I know that the tools you need for guitar work can be very expensive. Most of those tools you can build yourself. I have a series called Guitar Builder's Life Hack where I show you some of the tools that I've made myself for some of this works. And we're talking about maybe changing something that costs $100 into something that costs a few dollars. Obviously some tools you might have to just buy at StewMac or wherever you buy your tools, but this file is just a tiny little Metalworkers file, and it's fine-toothed. That's not something that you have to look in a special place for. It's just in the hardware store. It's nothing special. These are, I think, for plumbing, but they're nothing special. And then all you have to do is make sure you grind one side and polish it up so that it's really smooth, the edge right here. And that's all. There really is no magic to this. Now I'm going to round over the frets, so let's jump into it. So here we have the frets, and I'm not going to round over all of them. I mean, I am going to round over all of them, but I'm not going to film it. You just put the file down like this, and then you just push it like so. And you can see how I'm moving it in two directions at once. I'm pushing it forward, and I'm slowly, while pushing it forward, also moving it around like this, just to round it all off. But I'm also gonna push it at an angle like this. So but I'm not going like this because I'm not in a hurry and I want to control what I'm doing. You will find people online that says that you can go like this on things, that it's okay, it doesn't destroy the teeth, but that's not the point. That's just, something they've heard. The point is to have control. You don't have control going like this, or at least not very much. But every move you do with tools should have a purpose. Something like that, maybe. And then we move over to the next one. And then we can move it around, and we can do it from the side. Everyone most likely has one side that they're better at, and as you can probably tell, moving in this direction is a little bit harder for me. And hopefully you can tell that that fret now, take a little bit off the top as well. That fret is now rounded over, and it looks really nice and good. So there you go. And now I just need to do all the rest of them all the way down, like so. And then this side as well. But there you got a really nice little introduction to how to do it. And if you want to, you can re-watch this part. Basically, you just want to try to keep the roundness of the fret going in that direction as well, so that the fret is round all the way and then round it over at the end. So next thing is, I have a bit of 1200 grit and wet and dry, and it's all covered in water, and now I'm just going to roll this over the frets like this. So I'm just holding my hand like this, and I'm just going up and down all around, trying to also get the edges a little bit just to smooth them over. But it's not that necessary because they are really smooth and nice now. But there is always, it's always nice to have a little bit of sanding over. And I'm just doing this, going up and down, trying to remove every little bit of mistakes and things in the frets. Okay, so the next step, after you've sanded all the frets and they're smooth, I usually like to just put my finger over them and feel them like this. And usually I use my pinky because my fingers are so big that I can scratch the paper. But with your finger, you should basically not have a sound. Anyway, here's a drill and here's a buffing wheel. Here's a bit of buffing compound, and all I do is I turn this and I press this into it, and that way I get it smeared into it, and I'm able to use the wheel to buff the frets. Now you'll find a lot of different ways to do this online, and I'm not saying that any way is better or worse, just that my way is the best. Because I'll quickly buff all of them super quickly. If you use a Dremel with a little buffing wheel, you're basically doing the same thing, but you're going one fret at a time, and you won't get a better result. So let's just do this. yeah, something like that. And I don't know how long that took, but if any of you have ever done any fret leveling or something like that before, then you can probably tell anyone in the comments below that went pretty quickly. And I don't know if I'm able to show you, I don't know how well the camera picks that up, but these frets are mirror like now. I can see my own reflection, and yeah, that's pretty awesome. So I'll be back once I've taken the tape off, and we'll put some oil on this fretboard and see how beautiful it is. It's time to oil the fretboard, and now you'll see it just come alive. But look at those frets. I mean, it doesn't show on the camera how beautiful they are, but never mind. Let's put on some fretboard oil and just see this tired old piece of wood come alive again. You see how amazing that looks? And they're picking up a little bit of dirt, so maybe this fretboard needs a little bit more cleaning than I thought it needed. And I might actually, because it's really dry, have to put on more than one coating of this. And if you wonder what it is I am putting on, this is my homemade secret sauce. And I'm actually being serious. It might sound like a joke, but this is actually my own invention, and it is actually secret. Which, yeah, I don't know. There it is. I'm gonna leave it to soak in, and I'm gonna apply maybe another coat in 15 minutes or something, and you can see what it is I'm aiming for once all is said and done, basically. There you have it. I think this looks really nice. I think the fretboard and the entire neck, you know, all of it, I am really happy with it, at least right now. I've been thinking a little bit, because except for some wires being a little bit longer than I feel like they need to be, like this wire here, you know, it's going in a big loop. It doesn't have to do that. It all looks pretty good wire-wise. Now obviously I could switch everything out and replace it with high quality parts. As I've already said, I kind of like to make the guitar as good as possible first with what I have, and then I can make a more educated estimation of what I actually need to do. For example, I'm pretty sure already, without, you know, jumping the gun or shark or whatever the saying is, that I'm gonna have to replace the nut. And I'm probably gonna do that first. I actually think that that's gonna improve this guitar more than switching out the pickups. In the overall, you know, experience of the guitar. Sound-wise, yeah, sure, higher quality pickups will change the sonic, but never mind. We're not there. I'm just rambling on, and I was gonna do this really quickly. Have to have an edit with my cup. Just sipping a little bit of coffee. Just gotta have that in there. But anyway, what we're actually gonna do is we are gonna replace the magnets on the back here, because I think that's interesting. I like the idea of changing out the magnets and experimenting with what happened to a pickup. Now I kind of know what these sounds like, but they're very generic, you know, first guitar kind of pickups. And I have these bar Alnico 5, or at least I think they're Alnico 5 magnets. They might be Alnico 2. I'm going to put them on. And I'm going to show you how to do that, because when you switch out these kinds of magnets that you have right here for magnets from a humbucker, which usually bar magnets that are like Alnico or something, when you buy them, they will be humbucker magnet. You have to put them on raised instead of lying down. So we are gonna do that, and it's most likely gonna look a little bit weird and funky, but I want to see what happens and what it sounds like. I've done some other pickup mods throughout the years, and you've seen some of them, like for example putting on the plates on the back, or my mod where I switched out the magnet for rare earth magnet. So it's gonna be fun to do this too. We're switching out these pots for bigger pots, and we're also gonna switch them out for 500k pots. Now, I know a lot of people think that you have to have 250k pots, but that's not actually true. You can actually have basically any kind of value of pots in a guitar. Basically depends on what you like and what you want. For example, the Silver Sky has a 300k pot in the volume control, which is here somewhere. There, the volume. That was a really bad joke. And then the tone pots are 250k. Now, you might wonder why I'm doing that. And that reason why I'm doing that is because I want this guitar to be different. I don't want it to be, you know, like my other Strats. I want to find ways to make it just, you know, stick out a little bit. I want all my Strats to be, you know, a little bit different from each other. And we're also going to do the PRS Silver Sky mod to the volume control, which you've also seen in other videos, but it's coming back to this one again. It's gonna make this different because, you know, we're using a 500k instead of a 300k pot. But yeah, there is another reason why as well, and that is because usually when you switch out a magnet on a pickup for a weaker magnet, which, you know, an Alnico 5 magnet is gonna be weaker than this ceramic one on the back here. Basically what happens is that it becomes a darker sounding pickup. You take some of the brightness away by doing that. You add a little bit of brightness to the pickup when you switch out for a higher value. So if you, for example, have a Alnico 5 pickup and you feel like, I want to switch this out for something that is a little bit harder and brighter, you could actually just switch out the magnets. Technically should be good. Now, how much of a difference it really does, it's hard to say. And if you're gonna like it, it's also hard to say because you might do it and feel like, oh no, this went bright in the wrong direction or something. But anyway, we're gonna do that as an experiment on this guitar. So that's why we're doing the 500k pots, because we are changing a lot of things around. So, yeah. Anyway, I've been rambling on for way too long, and that's the way it is every time I'm trying to make an intro. So let's jump into wiring or whatever, modding this electronics, and we'll see what happens. Sounds good? Yeah. I'll most likely at some point make another video on this guitar, as I've already said, modding things, and I might actually switch everything out. You know, go for a loaded pickguard or something. I don't know. We'll talk more about that in another video. But if you have any cool ideas, you can let me know. Okay, so here we have the pickguard, the free pickups, and the controls down here. And the first thing we need to do is we need to remove, I've already taken that one off because it was hard to make it lie flat. The first thing we need to do is remove these. There's a lot of ways you can do it. There are tools that you can use to do it. I am just gonna press in a pick and swirl them around, and that will make them pop. Like so. It might look harder than it actually is. You just press the pick in and you just swirl it around, and the pick is pressing it up and it's just lifting itself out by the movement. And as you can see, I am getting all of them off fairly quickly, just like so. And we can put these to the side, and hopefully we don't lose them, but we never know. And then we just need to unscrew these, and we can push these through like so, and we'll have them on the other side like so. And then we can take our new pots, the 500k pots that I have right here, and we can put them into place. But the holes are just a little bit too small, so I need to drill them out with a step bit. It's super easy to do, and I just need to go one size bigger. And then after we've drilled them out to the right size, which you might not have to do, you never know, we can put the pot through the hole and we can attach it. So the pots are in, I had to put in some spacers in between because these pots I bought for a Les Paul that I was going to make, but that never happened. The guy who wanted that guitar didn't want it. I'm going to scuff off the back a little bit with just some 400 grit sandpaper, just like so. The reason why I do that is because it will make soldering to the back a little bit easier. And you can see I'm just moving it around. Like, you don't have to go in any special direction or do anything fancy. And 400 grit is just, you know, it takes off very little. And I don't want to go through the entire thing and break it or anything. I just want to scuff up the back a little bit so you can feel a little bit of... We're just going to put these controls back the way they were. We're not going to do anything fancy. So this leg here, for example, we're going to pull at it and bend it out and reshape it a little bit so that it is flattened out, can be moved to the back of the pot, like so. And hopefully we can solder it in place. When I solder this ground leg on a volume pot, I'm always worried that I'm not getting a nice contact. So I'm taking my multimeter and I put it in continuity mode. I put one of the prongs on the leg away from the solder and the other one on the back and see if I get a sound. Which I do. Which lets me know that it has been connected. And that everything is the way I want it to be. Now we can move on to wiring this up. First off, we're going to take a look over here at these legs here. And we need to pre-tin them. So let's do it. Okay, so if we look at these controls here, we can tell what needs to go where. So let's unsolder these and attach them over there. And this wire from the switch, pull it out, get some new solder and attach it. And just hold it for a second and then quickly as that, it's attached to where it needs to go. And here we have two more wires, the white one in the middle, which is our lead connection to the jack, and our ground wire, which is this bare one. So all we need to do is just attach the bare wire here and pull the ground wire over here. Then we have this ground wire here, and we're just going to attach that one over here as well. This ground wire is going to go to the claw, so it's important to keep it. Then over here, we are going to attach this yellow cable, which is our ground wire that goes from one pot to the next. And then we have these three ground wires as well. And the first one is getting pulled over here, like so. And then we have this ground wire from the switch, which you don't always see, but we have it now, so we might as well attach it. And the last ground wire from the other pot, that is also getting attached right here. So those three goes together. And first off, we can remove this one's ground wire. This pot right here is the middle tone, this one. It has a blue wire that goes to the middle leg. So let's just unsolder it and attach it to this pot like that, and just hold it still for a second, and it's attached. It can be super fiddly to get these out from the other pots, which you don't necessarily have to do. I mean, obviously that's what I'm doing because I'm reusing them, and I don't feel like there's anything wrong with these tone pots. A lot of people will want to use the bigger orange ones, but it's just the value that matters to me. I don't really care about the colors or whatever it is people care about. And I don't know which value I want in this guitar, so we're gonna go with these ones for now because we have them and we need to get this guitar finished. So now it's in place. And then we have this pot right here, which is this pot right here's a replacement. Don't really have the space to move these things around, so you'll have to forgive me that it's in the corner. This one gets attached right here. Because we've pre-tinned everything, it goes together real quickly. And then we just put this one in place. We heat up this control and the solder, and we just push it through, hold it so that it hardens, and move it over so that the leg gets pulled up here. And we add a little bit of solder so that everything looks nice. And there we have it. But I've got to be honest with you guys, I'm going to shorten these cables real quickly now, just because looking at this makes me angry, to be honest. I'm thinking of doing something about this blob here too, but I'm gonna not to do that, just because we need to move on to the next step and we can't focus on this too much. But I'm gonna do this too. What we need to do first is remove these and then move on to the actual magnets. Now, if you're lucky, these aren't on very well, and you can just sort of pry them off like this. And I'm gonna give that a go off camera. But as that didn't work, we are going to have to take a razor blade and score along them. Start off by just removing some of this wax and glue residue. And then we'll just take our soldering iron and not the tip, but the actual like broadside or whatever it's called. We'll use that to warm this pickup up. And we'll try to not touch anything but the magnet. So just move it around like this. And hopefully that will soften everything up a little bit. And then see if we can pry this off. Okay, so we ran into a problem that I actually didn't think we would. And that's how these magnets are attached to these pickups. Usually, a pickup is flat on the back like this one, or it has an inset little groove where the magnet sits and it's just glued there. But this one has a cutout for the entire under bobbin part. So when I lift this up, I can see the rest of it underneath. And so I can't take this magnet off without ruining the underside of the pickup. So the experiment that I wanted to do and that I was excited to do, we can't do. Instead, we're going to have to do another experiment. And the experiment I want to try now is see what happens if I attach some of these bar magnets to it. I have 3 of them. And they are just the same pickup magnets as these, but we're gonna have double, basically. I'm gonna secure them here with a little bit of super glue, or at least I thought I would, just to be on the safe side. The orientation is very important, and that you put them on slowly, because obviously we have some glue there, and if we just drop them, they are gonna smack on. Something like that. This is the experiment. I'm going to try to explain this so that you understand the weirdness of what I just did. The opposites of a magnet attracts. So this magnet is a south-north, and this one is a north-south. You have magnets going in opposite direction. The magnetism will be weird. This might not work. This is an experiment I've never done before. So, yeah, I don't know. But that is something that we'll try. I know that Jimmy Page had on his Telecaster had put a ceramic magnet on the bridge pickup to make it hotter on the underside. But if he did something with the polarity where he like glued it in place against its will, or if he just let it stick there, I don't know. So this is going to be a fun experiment. So I've tidied up the wires a little bit. You can see how they lie a little bit more neatly. And someone is going to say that I have issues, but I don't. I just like it when things look nice, and everything will come together much nicer and fit easier inside of the guitar because it's tidy. So there is a point to it. I'm not crazy. I mean, I'm crazy, but I'm not very crazy. Anyway, before I forget what I'm talking about and what I'm actually doing, let's do what I call the John Mayer mod, but it's, you know, it's nothing new. It's not something that he or PRS came up with. It's just this little thing that you can do to your guitar. It will sort of soften out the tone a little bit, and I think it's one of the reasons why the John Mayer Silver Sky sounds the way it does. You're gonna need a very high value resistor for this. I'm going with 3 meg, but you can go 2.7 or 5 meg or whatever you want to. You should most likely, which I've said that I'm gonna do and I'm never doing it, and I don't know, I'm kind of lazy, but you probably should switch them out and try to like nerd in and find the perfect one. And I don't know. I don't have time, basically, to match all the parts together in a guitar and sit there and tinker and take them out and do all of that, which is a shame because it's the kind of work I love to do. So yeah, maybe one day I'll finally get to do it. But anyway, we take our resistor and we will solder it in place. Now, where are we going to solder this, you might ask? And this is one of those mods that anyone can do to any guitar if you feel like doing it and you want to experiment with different guitars and see what happens to them. Because buying these sort of resistors, you know, they're so tiny and they're so inexpensive. On the wire that goes to the switch, we are going to add this resistor. So, like that. Now the resistor is in place and it looks sort of the way I want it to do. And we just bend it over like so. So it's lying on top of the pot. And then we just take the other leg and we just put it into ground. Just melt into place. Like so. And now it's attached there and it's all good. Okay, so it's finally time to put all of these parts. Woo. I'm sorry. It's time to put them back together and play the guitar and see what happens and see what it sounds like and all of that. So, we first need to just put the neck like so. There it is. We're done. No, I'm kidding. But somewhere in here we have the screws and we have the... So we just start by putting in this neck plate. It's not very fun to do, but it has to be done. Actually, I really like putting in the neck plate. It's just 4 screws and it's not hard to do, but you get a chance to see what everything looks like. And to be honest, usually I use a drill for this. So this is not actually a very honest clip that you're watching of me hand screwing these in, because it's, you know, one of those things that you don't necessarily need to do by hand. Screws that are very thin and fragile and that you could easily destroy by over tightening, you can do by hand, and you probably should do by hand. But some screws, like these, they're pretty big, you know, you can see they're big. They don't necessarily need to be treated like they're babies. And as long as you go slowly when you get to the last, I don't know, 2 mils, you're gonna be fine. Oh, look at that relic neck. Looks beautiful. So how you doing? Do you feel good? Do you feel like people are listening to your ideas at work? No? They don't? Well, you know, maybe your ideas are bad. I can't even say it. God damn it. I'm gonna have to edit this out. Because sitting here trying to make this fun is... it's too hard. Okay, so I'm gonna attach the pickguard. So we have 2 wires coming off it. That needs to go in different places. And there's a tiny little hole there you might see. I don't know if you can actually see that. There might not be any point in telling you that it exists. But that's actually one of the screws for the back cover. So let's try to ignore it. Over here we have 1 hole for the ground to the claw. So let's just push this through there. And over here we have a hole for the jack. So let's just try at least to see if we can get this one in there. Come on. It's getting stuck. There we go. And now we can try to align this under there. And thankfully this one had a bit of an overhang so that this weird cutaway in the pickguard is not visible. We just need to put in the screws. Ta-da! Oh, god damn it. All that work and I forgot 1 screw. Ugh. See, this is what I mean when I say I'm not a YouTuber. This one is going back in there, but it's just going to be there because we need to do this. I'm going to replace it soon, hopefully, when I get time for it. So it's back in there, pretty much perfect. I mean, not at all, but we're gonna go with that one. Ta-da! And of course, we can't forget the screws on the back. And just so you know, I'm putting in the screws before I'm tightening everything down. Because, yeah, obviously, that's how you do it. And I'm really trying to not say obviously about things that aren't obvious to everyone. Like, I feel like it would be okay for me to say that the sky is blue, obviously. Because that's how most people see it. But that this isn't obvious to everyone. So why do I say that? I don't know. You can argue in the comments below. Just not with me. That was a very bad joke. And now we can tighten these down snugly and securely to the neck. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do is attach the string tree. And I said string tree, you most likely thought I was gonna say string trees, but we're actually just gonna attach this one. And if you want to know why, there is no reason why. No, I'm kidding. I like the look of one string tree, but sometimes you need to have two because of the shallow angle of the headstock. I don't feel like this one has particularly shallow angle, so we're just gonna do this one. And I think this headstock looks rather nice that way, so I'll keep it. Now we are gonna jump into attaching the bridge, which is gonna be more detailed. Because if you remember, which I hope you do, we've plugged the hole. And if you look at the back here, you only have a certain amount of space, right? So if we put this bridge in here, and this is going to be fiddly to show you, but basically, if the bridge is too far down like that, it will be harder to intonate. But we don't want it too far that way either, so we have to find a nice in-between. And if we look at the back here, which will also be hard to show you, we have to sort of find as much in the middle as possible, because if it's too much that way, you will only be able to pull it up. And if it's too far that way, we won't be able to pull it up. So we have to find the perfect middle in order to be able to get a little bit of wiggle stick action, as you might call it. I don't think anyone calls it that. But anyway, okay, I hope this will hold up. This is a weird camera angle and I have everything sort of put together on a bunch of weird things to hopefully the camera doesn't fall. Anyway, we have to take the bridge and through one of the holes we'll feed this long string, which I don't know if you can see me do, but there it is. And we'll try to get it through with some pliers, and then we'll just pull it like so. And then we'll take the other end and feed it through the other. So basically through the two E holes. I know someone is probably going to say that you should put on guitar strings, but this is going to be under tension from your pulling, which is a different tension than actual guitar strings. So if you had guitar strings here and you were trying to actually get some tension, you wouldn't be able to hold this because it would be too great. If I hold these up and I pull them over the frets, I'm a little bit worried that they are going to hit these pickups. So let's just pull these down. They are very high up anyway, and they don't need to be. So I'm just gonna move them down, which is not working. So I think the pickups might be hitting the bottom, which is something I didn't think would actually be a problem, because I didn't think that they were being that much bigger. So we're gonna have to do something about that at some point, but that point is not right now. And then we'll just pull these up over here by the nut, and we'll put the E through the E and the other E through the other E, basically like you would on any string thing. And we'll take these clamps and we'll just clamp them in place. And just a little bit of pressure. You don't need to overdo this. They're not supposed to be pulled super tight or anything. They're just supposed to be holding the string sort of in place so you have your hands free, so that you can move this around. There isn't very much space to do so, but we have to find where this is supposed to sit. And now this is going to be super difficult for me to show you, but if we move this over, that's basically where it was before, and it's too tight. So we need to move this back to somewhere around there. So I'm gonna just find real quickly a tiny piece of wood that I can wedge in there, just to make it easier for myself, because that will pull this back a little bit. We already know that this is where the bridge used to sit, and that's actually, this is where it used to sit, but that's not good enough. We need it further back. So I'm back, and what I did was I took a painter's stick and I cut it to size, because I realized doubling it was the amount that I wanted. But just measure and find something that fits your need. And while I don't really know why I did this, but because there's no like reason to do that, but I glued them together. And while I was waiting for the glue to dry for a couple of minutes, actually a little bit more because I went overboard, I decided to route out in the cavity here a little bit more, just because I wasn't happy with the fact that the pickups weren't lower. I think that the pickups should be completely flat to the pickguard, and then when you go to set everything up for your taste, then you can raise the pickups. But I don't think you should have to lower them. The pickup height sense is something that you should set while playing the guitar and listening to it, so that you can match them up with each other, but also find the right space that you prefer. I prefer my pickups really close to the pickguard, and they're not there. And they're just too tall. I think it might have to do with the routing underneath being a little bit off, which will explain why this pickup is leaning towards the neck a little bit, and this one is leaning a little bit that way. This one isn't leaning that much, but it's also routed for a humbucker. which this one is also, which makes me think, but I don't know how that's possible, but it makes me think that this modification that we've seen on the scratch plate here is actually done by someone else than the manufacturer. But the issue I have with that is that there are no holes. There are no extra holes for that. There's nothing that would trick, because, I mean, there's no evidence of that, is what I'm trying to say. Just telling you what I did in between, because it's always annoying when, you know, there are steps that no one is showing or telling you about. And I sort of glanced over it now, I know, but I didn't want to go into too much detail. And why did I do that? That was silly of me. I need to hold this, obviously. It's not attached. That's what we're doing now. Oh, this is awkward, but I'm just putting this in here as a spacer, and that will give me the distance that I wanted. Actually, not really. For some reason, this is more now. God damn it. What happened? I was sure I measured out that 2 was enough, but now it doesn't seem like that. Seriously? Now it's 1. God damn it. Be right back. I need to break this glue bond. Okay, so now I'm back and it's just 1 stick in there, as you can see. And once the bridge in place, we're not gonna have it there. But now we know that the bridge needs to come back. And this is also, you know, that's a lot. That's a lot more than I thought. But that is strange. So let's line it up, which is probably somewhere around there, I think. It's not perfect. Maybe the neck needs to go a little bit in one direction, actually. Yeah, I think the neck needs to go. So we're gonna attach it there, mark out the center of these holes. And I'm using an awl to do this, and hopefully my bit won't wander. I take out the bridge, and I'm gonna drill these holes. And now we'll take our screws, and we'll measure them, and we'll drill out the hole to the size of a 3. Okay, so now I've drilled these out, and I went to 2.5. I know I just said 3, but that's the size of the screw. They need to be undersized, and so I misspoke. Hope you can all forgive me for that. So now let's just put in the 2 E-screws, and we'll just start them off a little bit like this, so that they are somewhat in, and then we'll switch over to the drill. Okay, so it's going to be hard to see, but I've left the last 2 mils, and I'm just gonna tighten them by hand. And if you hold it flush and you just put it down to where the heads are just touching the trem, because it has an angle on this edge here, we're just gonna put it down so where it's just touching, basically. Maybe even a little bit less than that, like a paper thin in between the trem and the screw head. The underside of the screw head, so this side, the underhead screw. So, something like that. Now, let's move on. Okay, so let's attach the output jack. The ground goes to the sleeve, and as you might see, I screwed the jack down real quickly, just because it's always annoying to have to do this, because my hands are always in the way. For myself, not just for the camera. But we have 2 connections here, and the one that goes to the ring in the middle, that's ground. So, now we can just tug this in here, and hopefully we can find the perfect spot for this jack. And the jack is in place. Beep, bop, boop, Beowulf. Okay, so here is the guitar. Whoa, 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 whoa. I don't know what I'm doing. Here's the headstock, and here's the neck, and the back of the neck, and the body, and it's very comfortable and nice. I'm quickly gonna go and put strings on this now and just play it a little bit, stretch them out a little bit, you know, all of that good things. I feel like you should do that a little bit before you intonate the guitar. So I'll be back real soon, and then we'll intonate the guitar, and then we'll have a quick little demo play it around a little bit, you know, have some fun. Hopefully it's gonna be fun. I'm gonna have to come up with some cool kind of background thing so that the video becomes fun, because me just standing there with a guitar, nobody wants to see that. Meow. Oh, you're back. Wait, no, I'm back. I was the one who went away to do something. Anyway, I have strings on the guitar now, which I don't know. Can you even see the strings? They don't show up on the camera. Anyway, here it is, and I've played it, and everything is good. Everything is good, but the string height is a little bit high. It's not crazy high. It's a lot better than it was before, but that's just because, you know, we straightened the neck and everything. We need to adjust these heights here. And the way I like to do this, which is a very unscientific way, is I just play that string. So first I'll just take the guitar like this and I'll just go. And be like, yeah, no, that needs to come down. And I'll just adjust it. So I'll just put it in, little Allen wrench. I don't know, can you even see what I'm doing? And I'll just pull it down. And I'll take it down maybe a mil or maybe half a mil, and then I'll play it again. And if I feel like the string is too loose and too, you know, out of tune and just a little bit floppy, then I'll tune the guitar. So I'll just do that. I'll just put it back in and I'll just adjust it. Obviously the guitar is automatically going out of tune because you're lowering the saddle, but I don't necessarily need to be imperfect pitch when I'm just doing this little string setup. And then I'll try to do the same thing with the other E string. I'll just lower the saddles a little bit and try to find a nice spot for it. Something like that. Let's play. And the height of the nut is a little bit high, so it should come down just a fraction, and I might go in and fine-tune it. I don't know. I feel like maybe not, because I'm gonna switch it out. It's not that bad. It's just a little bit high, so I'm thinking it might be good for now. Okay, so I've got the strings down to where I want them, and now I just need to check the relief a little bit. The way I like to do this is usually I'll put a finger on the last fret down here and at the top here and see if I have a little bit of relief. And you want just a very little bit. I mean, obviously this is a preference thing. Some of you might like a lot, but I like a flat board, which means to some people it means no relief. But you have to have a little bit of relief. The guitar won't function correctly if you don't have at least a little bit. But you can have so little that it's almost impossible to see. And I have like 1/3 of a mil or something as a release. I'm not going to bust out something to measure that. It's not really important, but I'm holding the guitar like this and I'm just checking the relief, and it seems to be good. So let's stretch the strings. Just, you know, go Johnny Greenwood or whatever his name is, and just throw the guitar around holding onto the strings. No, don't do that. I mean, it's probably fine and the guitar can probably take it, but it's probably not good for it. Unless we're on stage, then anything goes. And now that I've done that, I'm going to retune them, and I'm going to check my relief, not release, again, and then we're going to check and see if we need to lower or heighten the strings height. Anyway, we're moving on to intonation. Okay, so the string length and the thickness has a correlation between them. The thicker the string is, the further back the saddle needs to move. So we need to adjust these. And the way we're going to do this is we are going to tune the guitar up here. And then we are going to make sure the guitar is perfectly in tune with a tuner. Don't do this by ear, even if you think you're cool enough to do it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to play the 12th fret and check and see if it's also in tune. This is the E string, so it should be open an E. And then at the 12th it should be an E. And then we just move this saddle to counter the string. I hope this makes sense. You'll see me do it real soon, actually right now. And then we're just going to play some strings like that and see if they are also in tune. Now, the guitar can never truly be in tune, so you don't have to get it 100% perfect because it's kind of impossible, but you can try to get it as close as possible. So, let's tune this. And it's a little bit flat. So let's move this, retune. Another thing that is very important is that you try to play it the same way. So you don't go, you know, because bending is obviously changing the pitch. But I mean, don't play like super soft and then, you know, super hard. And sometimes you have to, because they get kind of stuck. So you need to like try to wiggle these a little bit, which can be hard to do. You can take something and just sort of like wedge it in there and try to move them a little bit. Move them a little bit. I don't know what happened to my accent there. Just to sort of nudge them, you know, because they can get sort of stuck. We're super close, according to the tuner. You also have to set up the trem, which I just did without thinking about it, because I just know how to do it. Which maybe I will have to make a video about that. That's pretty close. So I'm gonna just gonna do a little bit. Okay, so now the string is pretty good. The strings are a little bit new, so it might mess things up for you a little bit. It was binding on the saddle a little bit, and that's why I had to stop recording and just check, because I felt like I was moving it too much. But anyway, if I play it now. Tuned. 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 I don't know if you could actually see the light. I hope you could. But anyway, I'm quickly going to do exactly the same thing that I just showed you, but to everyone. So you just have to sit and tune the string and go from playing the 12 over and over and just do that. It's super tedious, but it needs to be done. And then the strings are good to go. So the guitar is intonated now, and as you hopefully can see, I've moved the saddles quite a bit, and there is space and room for the saddles to be moved. Yes. And maybe I moved it back a little bit too far, but I think it's going to work great. One thing that I feel like I didn't really say, because I don't know, I feel like I maybe explained things a little bit clumsily, but if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. But I want to just quickly mention two things. The reason why I set the height of the strings first is because I want it to be comfortable to play. But the intonation is also a question of the height of the strings, because you're distorting the string with pressing it down, basically. It goes into a bunch of physics and things like that, but basically the strength length, the thickness of the string, and how much you have to move it by pressing it down will change everything. In a perfect world, you know, pressing down the strings wouldn't move it at all, but it's basically the same thing as when you're bending. You're basically bending the strings by just pressing it down in a sort of way. If you think about it that way, I think you understand what it is I'm trying to say. The next thing I want to say is that you should probably check the intonation if you decide to have a different tuning. If you change the strings from one gauge to another, for example, you have 9s and you go up to 10s or 11s, then the intonation is going to be off, and you are going to have to intonate the guitar, because that's basically how this works. You tune the guitar up here, and you tune the thickness of the strings down here. Is how you could, for example, look at it if you want to. But if you change the tuning, not the thickness of the string, then I would say you shouldn't have to change the intonation. But the sloppier the string is, I hope you understand what I mean when I say that, because I don't really have the word for it, but the less tension, which is basically what's happened when you're tuning down the guitar. The less tension you have on the strings, the bigger the movement of the string is going to get, because it's starting to rattle. Now, obviously, stepping down a half step is not that big of a deal. But if you're changing your guitar from standard to C or something like that, I would say check the intonation and see what has happened, because it might actually be off because of just the way the string moves has changed so much. We have one thing left to do, and that is we have to cut these off. I like to cut them off on the side where it is poking out, and leave a tiny bit, like a couple of mil, 1 or 2, like so. I hope you can see what I'm doing, but I don't want them rattling around, but I also don't want to cut so close to the tuner that it's impossible to pick. I mean, if the string for some reason comes out, we will have trouble getting it back on. I move up to the tuner like this, and I cut it, and hopefully you can see tiny bit of string poking out. And you can press it down or up or tuck it away if you feel like you might stick your little fingers on them and get pricked. That was a weird sentence, but yeah. So I try to leave like a mil or two. I hope you can see what it is I'm talking about. Everything is out of focus. But anyway, here's the guitar again. It hasn't changed that much since the last time I showed you the entire thing. But it looks really nice. It feels really nice. The neck profile and everything. And you can play it. I forgot what it was I was going to say. Anyway, I want to thank you all so much for watching. I'm already considering what to do with this, what kind of mods to do. For example, this nut needs to become a bone nut. Bone is the best. We need to have some bone. I'm already thinking that we are going to switch out the toners. I was going to oil them and do a bunch of like, show you how to make them better, but I think we're just going to switch them out actually later down the line. And I feel like we should switch out the pickups. Oh, there you are. Hello and welcome. Didn't see you coming in. Today, we're going to take this guitar and we're going to give it new pickups. I've been playing this for a while now, and I gotta say, I really enjoy it. But the pickup it comes with are not that great. So, I have a couple of pickups. They're in this box right here. And don't let this fool you, it's an old box. I got these pickups secondhand, and they are Roswell pickups. I know there's better pickups out there, but Roswell pickups are actually pretty good for the price. And I got them even cheaper than that. I got them for about $10, so I'm really happy. And I feel like, you know, you could obviously go the route of buying really, really expensive pickups, like you know, those weird Gibson pickups that cost $1,000. But I don't know, putting really expensive pickups in a guitar that isn't really that, you know, interesting wood-wise is something that I feel like is probably not super smart to do, because I think that, you know, you will get the same results with less expensive pickups. You obviously, if you have a preference, if you have pickups that you really like and you want them in all your guitars, then you can put them in every guitar and not care about the price. But if you just want something that is a little bit better, don't spend $1,000 on Gibson brand pickups. Or do. I mean, it's your money. You know, whatever. Anyway, new pickups in this guitar, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Super simple and easy. But first, we need to just get the pickguard out from here. And it's going to be super easy to do. We just need to unsolder some wires. So let's quickly jump into it and get the pickguard off. Take off the strings first, but you don't need to see me do that. You know how to detune a guitar, right? Good. Okay, so the first thing is take out these two screws, flip it over, and there you can see the two connections. And if you have enough cable to just cut them off, you can cut them off, but it's very easy to unsolder them. And if you're unsure on which of these two wires that is going to go where, then you will either have a black wire or a bare wire, like I have here, and that is going to that leg there that is connected to this inner ring part. And the other one is going to the opposite. That's the first thing you have to do. The second thing you have to do is on the back here, this claw, you have to unsolder that one as well. Something like that. It's usually not that hard. And now we can take a screwdriver and just unscrew these screws all around the pickguard, and we should be able to lift the pickguard out. We have to detune the guitar and possibly even take off the strings. Maybe switch out the strings completely for new strings if you feel like it. You do however you'd like to do it, and be the master of your own craft, and you know, all of that. Okay, so here we have the pickguard, and the first thing we have to do is remove these old ones, and we're going to do that super quickly with a tiny bit of solder on our soldering iron, just like so. And we're just going to pull out these wires from the switch. Super quick and easy. And then also this ground connection here as well, like so. And now we can take out these screws. If we flip it over, you see these screws right here. We just we just turn them until the pickup is lowered so far that it's basically screwed out. And as you can see, it doesn't take very long for the pickup to fall out. Now you can pull out the screws and put them to the side, and the same thing with these little springs. We are going to use them again later, and then we just take the next pickup and we do the same thing to all of them. Okay, so now we're going to attach the pickups, and we're going to just see if we can get them out without any hassle and just be placing them in the right place. Here we have one, and it's written on the back that this is the B, which is the bridge. C will be for center, and last one is N for neck. So we can just start putting these in. And we have to take a screw and put it through this hole. And we need to put a spring on top. And then we just need to put the pickup. And the bridge pickup is supposed to go this direction. Sometimes you'll see it go the other direction, but you know, we all have our preferences, I suppose you could say. And my preference is to do things the right way. Just quickly get the screws and the pickups and everything in there. It's actually not very fiddly at all. I know a lot of people think it is, but that's just because they haven't been building pedals, so they don't know that that's where the real fiddliness is. And this is just a walk in the park in comparison. I don't know. That's basically what I'm trying to say, at least. And there we have the first pickup in. And then we will take the center or middle, and we'll put that in there. Just plop it in like so. And we'll take a spring and a screw, pop it in. Not through all the way, but like that. Put your finger on it to hold it in place. And put the spring on. And I mean, if I can do this while showing you, which means that I have to put my arm in a really strange way, then you can definitely do this without any problem. Right? Right. Just use your fingers like your wife wants you to. I was too dirty for school, so let's ignore me. Okay, and there is the last pickup. We can put this box away. And here we have a rat nest of cables that we have to sort out. But this isn't as hard as you might actually think it is. So let's jump into it, basically. Now, obviously, the switch down here, which we will get to really soon, is gonna be a factor. But I'm not gonna switch that out right now, because I have an idea for what switch I'm gonna get, and I have to do some experimenting before then. But new pickups are always fun, and so we can always go with new pickups. So first off, you take the wires from one pickup and you twist them together like this all the way down to the next pickup, and that's where you pick up see what I did there? The next two, and you twist them together as well until you have a crazy rat's nest of cables. And it might seem like, whoa, how will you sort this out? But don't worry, just don't worry. It will all be all right, as Frankenwerter would have told you. And then we go down here and we twist these in as well. We keep everything twisted until we get over here by the pickup. And here we are gonna separate out the black wires and twist them together separately, and the white wires, and twist them together separately like this. Now you can see we have a lot of wire, and you have to strike a sort of balance, because you don't want the wires to be super taut and possibly be, you know, able to break, but you also don't want them to be you don't want long wires in your guitar. The shorter wires can be, the better. So this is kind of loose. It's not, you know, it's a little loose. So I'm going to cut them right there. I feel like that's going to be well enough. And one of these is, we're going to replace this with one of these, I think, because I think that might look nicer. And the thing that's good about these cloth back wires is that you can actually just pull back the cloth. You don't necessarily have to strip it, or at least you're supposed to be able to. So let's see if we can do that. Just strip back the wire. Maybe we won't be able to. Give me a sec. So take the bare wires once you've managed to strip them back and just pull them together, twist them around each other, and take your solder, solder them all together. Just let the solder flow into the wires and get in between and get everything stuck together. And then I'm going to remove this black wire that goes to the cloth. No, goes to the cloth. I won't speak. And just for fun, I'm going to replace it with this cloth thing, just because I think it will look kind of fun to have the cloth, or you can see the cloth basically through the cavity in the back. And I think that might be a funny and nice little touch to add to the back of the guitar, basically. One of those things that only you and I will notice, and because we're friends, we will keep it a secret in between the both of us. Or some silly goose thing like that. So I'm just going to pre-tin this wire real quick, and then with a little bit of solder on my tip, we can start attaching some of these things. So let's start with this right here and just heat everything up and let it flow together. So, and a little bit more on my tip, I'll attach something like that. There we go. Now, on inexpensive switches like this, we need to have the first wire be the bridge pickup. No, I mean the neck pickup. So I'm gonna just there we have it, and it's gonna get pulled all the way over here to that leg there, and that's where we're gonna attach it. So you have 3 legs here, which is a little bit hard to see. That one, neck, middle, bridge, because the switch falls the opposite way when you pull it. If you pull the wires, you can see that one is longer than the other, and the shortest will always be the neck, because that has to travel the furthest. And so you can do it that way if you want to, but if you make a mistake, you will have to open up the guitar, and you will have to redo your work. And so using a multimeter might be the best way to do it. Some pickups, you know, most of them, they come in a set of 3 and you have different colored wires. So it wouldn't really be an issue in most cases. But if you are like me and you're getting these pickups and they are not colored, then that's one other way you can do it. So checking with a multimeter, if you have one, is a great way to just do it. And again, we're taking the middle one, and this one is going to get connected to the middle, right there. I'll poke with it. So there, that's the neck, middle, and bridge. And then the last one, with a little bit of solder on, we can just melt the connections and push it into the hole, and they will just melt together. And the wire is in place. Just push everything down, make it look nice and neat. And there we have it. This one will go to the claw in a second. And here we have all the wires, and everything looks pretty neat, or at least I think so. And it takes up very little space. These will go back to the jack. And we can test the wiring with our multimeter to make sure everything works. So if we hold here and we have continuity mode, we can check and see where it's supposed to be the middle, which is that one maybe? Yeah. And the bridge, is it that one? Yeah. And the neck, it should be this one, right? Yeah, all good. The great thing about using a multimeter is you don't have to second guess everything and take the guitar apart and fiddle around with it. You just check, and then you know. And then you can put the guitar back together and it'll all be good. no going back and forth and switching things around and soldering and unsoldering and all of that. So let's put the guitar back together now. Okay, so let's reattach this. And as I've already said, first thing is the ground, because that's easiest. There is only two connections, and if you know which one is ground, you know which one is lead, because that's just the opposite. So this gets attached there to the ring in the middle, and everything got a little bit blurry there. Sorry, this lead is very long. I need to cut it down. Give me a sec. It doesn't have to be that long. That looks wonky and weird. Can you even see anything? My hands are in the way, I'm sorry. There's the ground. Anyway. And here is the lead. Just like that. And we just put it in like so. And we find the screws. And we just screw them into the guitar. At least you get to see me screw. Which sounds horrible when I say it out loud. Okay, so here we have the ground wire that's gonna go to the claw, and we just need to pre-tin it like we do with everything. So just put a little bit of solder on it. That was horrible of me. Put some solder on it, doing the doop-dap-da, and then a little bit on the tip as well. And we just try to fold this neatly and put it in place on top of the claw, and this is where I should have some sort of helping hands. There we go. Okay, so here is the guitar now. Went with the covers that came with it, with the pickups, and I think this looks rather nice. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and also let me know if this helped. If you have any questions about installing pickups, you can leave them in the comments below. Okay, so here I have the pickguard taken off the black Stratocaster, and I'm gonna just, you know, work on it a little bit and make it a little bit, I don't know, green, I suppose you could say, because that's what I'm gonna do. So first off, I'm just gonna sand it, and then I'm gonna dip it in green tea and let it soak there and see what happens. So I'm going to start off with 400 grit sandpaper, this thing that I'm holding right here. And I'm just going to take this and hold it with this, just so I have something to hold it with. And just sand it a little bit to matten it up, like so. I'm going to try to go in one direction so that it all looks even. And then when I've done that with 400, I'm going to go to 600 and then 1200 and so on. You know, just move up the grit and get it to be nice and flat and dull and all of that. Just because I think that will suit this guitar better. So a quick sanding. Yeah, I'll be back once I've dyed it. Yeah, so here's the pickguard, and it's been lying in tea for the entire day. Maybe that's not enough, but it doesn't look the least bit of green. All it did was warp it a little bit, which is just annoying. So I'm gonna have to put this back on the guitar and at a later date get a new pickguard. So if you're watching this right now, that means that you're watching the end of the year video where I am showing you everything that has happened to this guitar in one big video. And yeah, obviously as I'm recording this part right now, as you can see, the cops are here to arrest the guitar because it's too sexy for school. Anyway, I just wanted to show where I am in between, because I've just finished building guitar and I haven't really started making videos about it. Not really. If you've seen this, you just saw me do the video about the pickups, and you might have seen it when it came out. But yeah, the guitar is here and it has new pickups, but I have actually done some other things to it as well, and I just thought I'd show you it in a sort of in-between thing, because I don't know if I'm mentioning it
really in any other videos, and I just want to do a little extra thing for this 1 year thing, so that you get a little bit extra things if you're a good boy or girl and watching this whole thing, even though you've had the entire year to watch it, but you're watching the entire thing in one big video thing at the end of the year. It's kind of weird to talk about something that you're not gonna show anyone until later. But anyway, yeah, here's the guitar, and I tried to dye the pickguard, but I'm gonna have to get a new pickguard because it warped a little bit. I don't know if you can see that, but it warped a little bit, and I can actually hold the pick in it, so it's kind of a nice feature. But it's also kind of annoying because it looks a little bit wonky. I have burned through the finish a little bit, and the guitar has so many scratches already. I don't know if you can tell, especially on the back where it's been rubbing up against me. Like, the finish is so thin. I don't know what to do. At least not, you know, as of recording this, because on one hand, I like guitars to get relicked and smashed and things like that, and I like, you know, all of that. I love it. But on one hand, it wasn't really what I was going for with this guitar, so I'm thinking that maybe I should repaint it. We'll have to see. Maybe next video I'm repainting it. I don't know. But I don't know, the like piano black classic Strat, it's what I wanted with this one. But I don't know. So the pickups are new, and the Roswell pickups, but I really gotta say that I really like them, and I'm really enjoying them. Just, you know, there is all this talk about like hand wound pickups and, you know, like, you know, boutique pickups and, you know, small companies and things like that, and I get that those pickups are nice, but they're also very expensive. But I gotta say, for these pickups that cost, I got them for like $10 secondhand, and I know new they're not that cheap, but they're pretty cheap. They're just really good pickups. I'm actually confused why you would want to switch them out. I mean, unless you're really looking for something like a more high gain or something, maybe then. But for quality wise, I don't see why you would want to switch them out. And they're perfect for more low end guitar. Obviously, the price thing, I don't really like to talk about price, because I feel like the most important thing is, do you like the guitar or do you not like it? But it feels weird to put in pickups for $300 or something like that in a guitar that is worth $50. Not saying that this guitar is worth that, because now it's unique and it has its very own neck shape that you can only get if I do it for you, and all of that. So it's, you know, it's not fair to maybe say that it's a $50, but I mean, I didn't really put that much into it when I bought it. I don't actually really remember what I paid for it, but it was something around $50. And so having these pickups, you know, being in a price range that it feels so somewhat, at least, like it makes sense to the guitar. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but to me it does. That's really nice, and them being good is really nice. I like it. But anyway, so yeah, and I'm on the fence about the coloring, but I like it. I think maybe I'm gonna keep it like that for now. We'll see what happens when I get a new pickguard. It's also, you know, a thing. If the pickguard is changed out, maybe the look will change with everything else. And I'm thinking that I'm gonna try to find a mint green pickguard, because I think that would look cool. And yeah, we'll see what happens. I also switched out the knobs. You might know that I have a old Behringer guitar that I got. I showed you in the beginning of the year. Well, I took that guitar apart and, you know, put everything in its right bin, and then I looked at the knobs and I thought, ooh, those knobs will look nicer on this guitar than the original knobs. So you can't see the knobs. I can't get the knobs to be in focus, but there they are. And I think they look nicer because they've naturally aged, because that guitar is an older guitar. And then
The dots, I don't know if anyone has noticed it, but they have changed as well. I replaced the dots with new dots. And I made the dots because I wanted them to match the pickguard. I made them out of the cover for the back here. And because I either I just leave the covers off and they get lost, or I actually throw them away. I know some people think you should have this covered up, but I like to have this covered up. You can mess with the springs while playing. You could. I just think this looks better. Also, you know, just I don't know. That's what I've done. To the guitar, I've been playing it, and I really gotta say I like the neck. I knew I was gonna like the neck from the moment I reshaped it, but I'm liking it more and more. So yeah, I also fixed a new nut, which I didn't make a video about or talked about. I made a video where I cut out a piece of bone and I talked about, you know, that it's a good thing to buy bone and cut your own bone nuts and not buy them. But I don't think anyone understood that video really. But anyway, that doesn't matter. This guitar got a new nut, and I made a really good nut and perfect nut, and you know, the string height is perfect for it and everything is the way it's supposed to be. Sorry, bumped the camera. And it's, yeah, the action on the nut is really good. Sorry. I don't really know what to say. But anyway, there you have it. I hope you like it. I don't know what next step's going to be, so hold on for a couple of seconds while we transform into the next part, which some of you have already seen, but some of you will not have seen. I haven't seen it yet because I'm still in the past. And just, yeah, hold on to your yellow hats and yeah, let's go. Okay? Okay, so here is the guitar, and I gotta be honest, I actually kind of forgot about the whole making a year video. So yeah, I actually bought a new pickguard for it. Eventually I got it. So yeah, let's take out these screws. I think it's easier, unless you're gonna get new strings as well, which, I mean, I probably should, but I'm not gonna bother with that right now. It's actually easier to just remove the trim. I can just move the trim to the side like so. And yeah, we can just start pulling out these screws. There we go. Just pull these things off as well. If you're having trouble getting the knobs off, you can take a chisel and you can press it in, and you can turn the knob while you're pressing it in, and it should like lift itself up. I know there are special tools you can get and stuff like that, but if you build guitars anyway, you might as well use your chisel for this. As long as you're careful, you won't like accidentally hurt anything. And then let's loosen these as well. Just press them in, or at least we should be able to just press them in. Just move these over here. I don't know if you guys can see or if you've noticed it, but this has grown over the year. I'm not super happy about it because I kind of wanted this guitar to be completely black. You can see there we have all of it. All right, I did put in 500k pots in this. I actually forgot about that. It's strange, it doesn't feel like it's been a year since I built this. It technically hasn't really, because it's I'm filming this before the beginning of next year, obviously, since this is coming out the end of this year. It's still 24 and not 2025 yet, but yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that. Anyway, here is everything. I have a video coming on this. Eventually I'll get around to it. I've been very slow. You might have seen that I made a custom knob for a guitar, and it's actually this guitar, and that's why this switch hasn't been replaced. I mean, custom switch. Anyway, here's the new pickguard, and the first thing we have to do is to remove this protective plastic. I know some people like to do that after they've installed it, but you see, like that, super easy to do. We don't have to make life harder than that for ourselves. So let's hope, because sometimes, you know, new pickups and pickguards and things don't line up, but it seems like it's gonna work. Put a screw through, take a come here, you little fucker. Right in the cavity. Oh, stupid places you could go. Come in. Ah, and then it popped over to the other side. Yeah, through there. Up in here. Just hold it in place. Press it up. Finger tighten it down. Just enough so that it stays put. And then, I don't know if you guys can even see what I'm doing. If I'm putting in all the screws in, you can see how I do, hopefully. Not that this is any of those things that you necessarily need, maybe, to see someone do. But there they are. I like to screw them down with my fingers enough so that I feel that they've gone past a little bit. So yeah. Put that in there. Add the next spring. Put in pickup. Come on, don't be like that, come on. No. You're about to accidentally go in the wrong way. Spring. Just push it in. Start finger tightening it. If you press everything together, you hold everything in place by the shear force of your fingers, and then you can tighten it down. It's actually really easy. It is a little bit fiddly, but it's not that bad. Which is probably something I'm gonna regret saying now, that I'm honestly kind of struggling. There is one, and there's the other one. Okay. Put the spring in your mouth so you can't talk to the camera. It's at least good for the ones of you who don't like to hear my voice, which I know there are a couple of. You seem to enjoy the videos enough to watch them, but not enough to not complain about my voice. But now I'm back. And there we go. It looks rather nice, right? Yeah, let's just add the other things. Let's start off by just pushing this through, adding a washer and the ring, or the ring and then the washer. Just tighten it down a little bit, just enough so that everything is in place. Add some other little rings to make these pots that were the long pots. Don't remember why I used that, most likely because I didn't have anything else, to make them into short posts. Yeah, there they are. This is going really well, and I think this is a nice match. They're a little bit off in color, but it looks good anyway. And then these two little screws as well. Let's see if we can press the switch in here and just get them in there. I like using the drill. I feel like I don't have to worry about the motion in itself. I can just care about the actual holding everything straight. So yeah, that's kind of nice, I think. And let's raise these just enough so that they just stick out. And there we go, now we have the new pickguard. We just have to put it in place, like that. I think that looks nice. That looks nice, right? That looks nice. That's one good looking pickguard. And then here are the strings and the trim. Just make sure nothing is in the wrong place for when we go to attach it all together again. I'm sorry. To anyone who's British, I don't actually have anything against you guys. I just find your accents to be funny. Actually, prefer your accents. Hello, governor. I wish I had a British accent, because that'd be funny. Or I would love to have an Irish. Just be like, oh, hello, man. That'd be great. Big old lad. Don't ask me what I'm saying, though, because I have no idea. Anyway, let's put the springs back in before we do anything else. It's very easy to put the springs in. Let's start off here in the middle. just pull it into place. I hope you can see what I'm doing. There we go. Yeah. That looks good. Do we have any holes that lines up? No, I don't think so. Sorry. I'm turning into a weird dialect that I don't actually know why I have. I think that one. It's the only one that lines up. So let's pull out. Let's pull out a 1.5 mil drill bit and start adding some of these screws. This is a very soft body, so I'm letting the screws do a lot of the work. That's why I made a 1.5 mil hole, because it's so soft that it's not going to be a problem. Had this been really hard wood, I would have made the hole closer to the size of the actual screw. So when you build things yourself, think of that. Like what hardness of the wood is it? The harder the wood is, the more take into account the actual size that you need. Because the grain is being pushed away in all directions by the screw. That's sort of what you're doing. You're sort of splitting it open with the screws and letting the screw teeth bite into the meat of the wood. I hope that is a good way of explaining it. If it's not, then I'll have to make a new video about it. But it will have to be next year, because yeah, we're only days away now. God, it's almost scary how fast the year goes. You know, you have an itch, you scratch it, and whoops, the whole year went by. Let's add those. Some screws are meaner than others. Some screws are meaner than others. Some screws' mothers are screwier than other screws' mothers. Anyway, there we have it. The pick guard, everything is in place. Need to adjust these a little bit just to make sure that they are proper aligned. But yeah, I think that looks good. Yeah. Okay, give me a sec. I'll be right back. Never mind. I thought I had some replacement for these as well, just because I thought it could be fun if I did put something on that matched. But I'll just have to go to the music store and have a look and see if maybe they have something. It's a little bit funny that both these covers and the pickguard are supposed to be, you know, vintage, but these parts are actually old parts, and they are not as green or as worn looking. And I think that's funny. I think that's one of the parts about relicking that is lost on people. Like guitars, yeah, they make them look too damaged. They need to take into consideration the fact that you know, that's not the way it's supposed to be. But anyway, let's zoom out. No, out. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Here's the guitar right now. Turn it around. I think that looks nice. I like that pickguard. I need to replace these to match this, and I need to tune it. But I also need to replace the bridge, the tuners, and the output jack. I have locking Strat buttons, so that's nice. But yeah, here's the back as well. I think it looks, I like it. It's been a joy to play this throughout the year. So yeah, but I think we might have to repaint it next year. I'm gonna take I don't know, but we'll talk about it later at some point.
Well, that's the end of the video, and I just want to say thank you so much for watching it. Merry Christmas to all of you. I hope you're having an awesome time, and yeah, I'll see you guys either in the last video of the year that will be coming real soon, or I'll see you next year. So yeah, until next time, stay awesome and cool, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all of you.